These experts wearing the Grand Han's robes were all pierced through by the chains. Long Chen tied the other ends of the chains to the front of the carriages, turning them into his carriage-pulling animals. Let alone others, even Xia Yunchong and Xia Yuluo were stunned by what Long Chen was doing. He wanted a bunch of soul transformation experts to pull his carriage? Bastard, a man can be killed but not humiliated, roared a rank 7 celestial. He tried to escape the chain, but the hooks made it so he couldn't escape. Unless he split himself in two, he wouldn't be able to escape. That person had only just shouted when Long Chen tugged on his chain. That person immediately exploded. Although he was a soul transformation expert, no Yuan spirit flew out. It had also been killed. The strength of a person's Yuan spirit depended on their spiritual strength. Not everyone had such a powerful Yuan spirit. You're right, a man can't be humiliated, so I'll just kill you. Whoever wants to die, go ahead and say it. I will help you, said Long Chen indifferently. How dare you do this? You're going to cause the Grand Xia to be destroyed. Yet another expert roared, causing Long Chen to snort and touch another chain. That person also blew to bits. Long Chen sneered, the seed you planted is the fruit you get. When you use the support of a secret backer to run amok inside my Grand Xia, deliberately provoking us, bullying our commoners, why didn't you say that men could only be killed but not humiliated? Don't use such childish words to threaten me. I know the majority of you don't know the real details and are just being used. So I'll give you a chance to live. As for whether or not you want to grasp that chance, it's up to you. No one can trample over other people's dignity. Now you're reaping what you sowed. This is the karma of humiliating the Grand Xia's commoners. Through his conversation with Xia Yunchong, Long Chen had learned just how tyrannical these people had been in the Grand Xia. Although they hadn't killed people, trampling over someone's dignity was worse than killing them. They were deliberately provoking Grand Xia. The Grand Xia's emperor had seen that this was a sinister plot, so he intentionally ordered his people to endure until he figured out just who was really in the shadows scheming against the Grand Xia. However, enduring like this only made them more arrogant. The Grand Xia's commoners were forced to avoid these people wherever they went, and now, if they didn't have something major to do, they wouldn't even go out. Just from how they had intentionally tried finding trouble with Mrs. Long, it could be seen how shamelessly arrogant they were. Now, Long Chen was simply returning it to them. Didn't they like bullying others? Then he would properly bully them today. Mush, shouted Long Chen. Long Chen was really viewing them as pack animals. This was too humiliating. Under their pull, the carriage slowly moved forward. When it passed the crushed bricks, an unpleasant sound rang out. These people included the large-faced rank 9 celestial. Just now, he had almost been killed by Long Chen. Now that his injuries had healed, he had a chain going through his body and had become Long Chen's slave. With his strength as a rank 9 celestial, he could easily escape these chains. But he didn't dare to. He knew that as soon as he had a bad thought, Long Chen would kill him. He lowered his head as much as possible, trying to make it so people wouldn't recognize him as he pulled the carriage. Seeing these people willingly pulling the carriage, Xia Yunchong sneered slightly. These people had acted so wildly arrogant before. But in front of Long Chen, they were like a herd of sheep. It really is a case of evil people being handled by evil people. Xia Yuluo sighed upon seeing this. Hee, it's quite satisfying. I wish I could have done this a long time ago. But I have to listen to father, or he'd definitely beat me half to death. Xia Yunchong looked at Long Chen's actions with some envy. He cultivated the undefeatable Tao, and he was supposed to be unconstrained and free. But that was only in theory. In truth, nobody was truly undefeatable. To Xia Yunchong, the Grand Xia's people and his family were his weak points. He couldn't possibly act without worrying about the consequences for them. So while Xia Yunchong had been infuriated and stifled, there was no way around it. However, Long Chen was different. He could be unconstrained. It could be said that Long Chen had greatly helped Xia Yunchong and the Grand Xia as a whole in venting their anger. Don't just lower your heads. Are you looking for coins to pick up? Here, each of you gets a gong, and you'll beat them as you pull. Don't forget to also shout our catchphrase, ordered Long Chen. He felt like just this wasn't enough. If he was going to do this, he was going to do it properly. In any case, he had plenty of storage rings, and randomly searching through them resulted in him finding quite a few gongs. He gave each of them one. Their faces immediately turned green. Flames of rage blazed in their eyes, but they didn't dare to rebel. Unless they wanted to die, they had to endure. The Grand Han ancient nation is garbage. Only complete fools would shamelessly bully others blindly without knowing that they are being used. Chanting filled the air along with randomly beaten gongs. It was extremely painful to listen to, giving other people goosebumps. This was the slogan Long Chen told them to shout. They had to shout it while banging their gongs. Wrong, wrong, make sure to synchronize the rhythm and the beat of your gongs. Yes, yes, just like that. Louder. Remember, the voice comes from the chest, not the throat. That way, your shouting will spread farther and will reverberate, making it especially nice to listen to. Don't shout like a bunch of wild ducks without the slightest beauty. Look at my hand and follow along. Long Chen took out a small duck and began to act as a conductor for them. As Long Chen messed around, more and more people arrived to watch. More of the Grand Han's experts also came out. Seeing Long Chen use the Grand Han's experts as animals to pull a carriage, they were infuriated. But the ones who attacked Long Chen ended up chained by Long Chen and joining their fellow countrymen. Anyone who resisted was killed. Brother, isn't this bad? Seeing more and more people arriving, Xia Yuluo couldn't help being worried. Long Chen seemed to be making this matter grow even bigger on purpose. Whether this is a blessing or disaster, we can't dodge it. I trust Long Chen. Since he agreed to help, he definitely has his own plans, said Xia Yunchong. If his identity is exposed, won't this end up implicating him? Said Xia Yuluo. More and more experts arrived and were forced to work for Long Chen. Fortunately, Long Chen had enough chains. After 2 hours, over 800 people were pulling his carriage. A portion of these people had attacked him and were captured, while some had come only to watch and pass on the news of this to others, but they were also captured. Another portion of people was very unyielding and refused to submit. They all died. Now, the Grand Xia's capital was filled with chaos. Countless heads were looking outside the windows of the buildings lining the streets. They saw a cloaked man, whose face was blocked off, sitting on a carriage with hundreds of the Grand Han's people forced to work for him. None of the Grand Han's experts were able to stop him. Seeing these people that had bullied them turn into beasts of burden, the Grand Xia's commoners almost started dancing. There were also more people coming to watch. A long flood of people had appeared at the back of the carriage. They were the Grand Xia's commoners. They thought that the imperial family was finally fighting back. Some people were cheering as they vented their anger. Suddenly, the sky shook, and a figure descended in front of them. The world instantly became heavy. This person was very tall with long hair trailing over his shoulders. His nose was very sharp, while his eyes were like golden lanterns, having mysterious runes in them. Heavenly Tao energy circulated around him, and he was like an emperor amongst commoners. Brat, you're courting death. That man looked down on Long Chen from the sky. His voice contained undoubtable dignity. Long Chen stood on the carriage and stretched. He then unhurriedly said, "Yes, I was really looking for crap. And now I've found a giant turd like you." The man's expression instantly sank, and a fierce pressure descended, causing heaven and earth to rumble. A palm crashed down toward Long Chen, and it grew larger until it covered an area of 300 meters. It possessed a strange locking power that made Long Chen unable to dodge. However, Long Chen smiled. As he waved his chains, startled cries rang out as the experts he was using to pull his carriage were thrown into the air and toward that palm image. Despicable! That person shouted and formed new hand seals. The palm image scattered and received them. He roared, "Brat, today, you're definitely dead. Courting death sounds like looking for crap." That person roared furiously, completely provoked by Long Chen. He wanted to kill him, but Long Chen actually used these people as shields, making it so he couldn't attack. Despicable? Why does that sound so ironic when it comes from your mouth? Are you trying to tell me that none of you have any idea about what you are doing? Is being used to threaten the Grand Xia and bully weak commoners not despicable? Didn't you use the lives of the commoners to threaten the Grand Xia? The Grand Xia hasn't started a war not because they're cowardly, but because they don't want to involve so many innocent people. Taking advantage of that, you continued to bully and humiliate the Grand Xia, constantly testing the Grand Xia's bottom line. And now you use the word despicable to describe me? Is your head full of shit? Sneered Long Chen. Long Chen's voice resounded throughout the capital, entering everyone's ears clearly. The chains in Long Chen's hands stiffened, and it was like Long Chen was roasting marshmallows as he held the people in the air. He coldly said, I also bully others, but I don't bully the weak. If I have to bully someone, I bully the strong. So don't try to say that I'm the same as you. Bullshit. If you don't bully the weak, what are you doing right now? If you have any guts, you'll have a real fight with me, Lu Qingfeng. Raged that person. Lu Qingfeng, the southern Xian region's magnetic cloud mountain's most outstanding genius. For him to appear here in the Grand Xia is a pleasant surprise. Just as Lu Qingfeng said this, an old but hearty elder sighed emotionally. He's from the Huayun sect. Everyone looked over at the elder and saw his robes. The Huayun sect was spread throughout the martial heaven continent and was the clearest about the movements of the continent. As soon as this person inadvertently exposed his name, this elder was able to tell his origin. When the Huayun sect's elder said this, Lu Qingfeng's expression changed. He realized just how badly he had misspoken just now. Long Chen smiled. Clearly, this old fellow had already recognized him and had come to help. Lu Qingfeng, as an expert of the southern Xian region, when did you become the dog of the Grand Han ancient nation? You're even wearing dog clothes. Is dressing up as a dog so satisfying? Demanded Long Chen. This Huayun sect elder had truly come at the right time. He had completely exposed the story of the Grand Han, producing many experts out of nowhere. An uproar immediately rose following Long Chen and the elder's words. Too shameless. They all say that they're from the Grand Han whose fortunes have taken a miraculous turn, and it was fake. There's definitely no one so shameless in all of history, and there will probably be no one as shameless in the future. No wonder the Grand Han's people's faces are so big. It was because their faces were so thick that they ended up using their faces as shields. Sneers and taunts rang out from the Grand Xia's commoners, and all kinds of words flew over from their mouths. During this time, the Grand Han had just been intolerably arrogant. Now that they were exposed, curses came in their direction. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to speak to me? There's no one like you within the Grand Xia ancient nation, roared Lu Qingfeng, killing intent blazing in his eyes. You're wrong. I am from the Grand Xia. All the Grand Xia's commoners can testify to that, said Long Chen. Cut the crap. I suppose you have some power. Do you dare to have a fair fight against me? Shouted Lu Qingfeng. A fair fight? When you came to the Grand Xia to bully the weak, did you think of having a fair fight? However, I really am busy, so I'll accept. There is a place called the Nine Serenities Heavenly River Valley 10,000 miles from the city. We can fight there, said Long Chen. Fine, you have some guts. Then release them. Lu Qingfeng pointed at the experts caught in Long Chen's chains. I can, but you'll need to fulfill 2 of my conditions, said Long Chen. What 2 conditions? Long Chen raised one finger. 1. All of them must kneel down to the Grand Xia's commoners and sincerely apologize. Impossible. Experts definitely won't lower their heads to the weak, roared Lu Qingfeng. That was too humiliating. Is that so? Then that's fine. If they won't lower their heads, then I can just make their heads fall. If you come out to play, then it comes with a price. Since you humiliated others, there will come a day when you are humiliated as well. Is trampling over other people's dignity fun? Then today, enjoy the feeling of having your dignity trampled by others. Isn't that what you meant when you demanded fairness from me? Long Chen smiled coldly. You dare? Raged Lu Qingfeng, his hair standing on end from fury. You're right, I really do dare. You, kneel down and apologize. Long Chen swung one of the chains, and an expert fell from the sky. I would never dash. Lightning flowed down the chain, killing that expert before he could finish speaking. He turned into blood mist, eliciting startled cries. Next, Long Chun brought another person to the ground. That person was pale because the scent of blood filled his nose. That was the blood of the expert who had just been slain. I apologize. I should die. In front of countless gazes, that person knelt toward the commoners. You inferior bastard, that's not the conduct of a hero, roared Lu Qingfeng. That person's submission was a slap in all their faces. Give it a rest. I never wanted to be some hero. Furthermore, does a group of rank 7 to even rank 9 Celestials count as heroes when they come to some secular world nation to show off? I'm leaving. One expert after another was pulled out of the sky by Long Chen, and after the first person submitted, the others all knelt and apologized. Although they were geniuses, they weren't real experts. To put it frankly, they were eye-attracting geniuses with high cultivation bases but garbage combat abilities. At the same cultivation base and celestial rank, any warrior within the Dragonblood Legion could fight 10 of them. Talent and cultivation bases didn't represent combat power. And there was also a definite difference between combat power and killing power. Combat power was more like destructive power, while killing power was purely for taking an opponent's life. These people had not gone through the baptism of bloody battles, so they could only be called talented trash. Long Chen estimated that they had been sent here to amuse themselves while experiencing the rest of the world. When it came to bullying others, they might appear impressively powerful, but when faced with death, they would only be able to show a moment's bravery before it ran out. They were simply trash. I apologize. I'm a bastard. I should die as atonement. As one expert after another knelt and admitted their mistakes, the Grand Xia's commoners cheered. The resentment that they had stifled for so long was finally released. Within the imperial palace, Xia Yuyang and Xia Yuncheng's master were staring at this through a screen on the wall. Long Chen really is Long Chen. He doesn't make a move lightly, but when he does, it's a thunderous move, said Xia Yuncheng's master. Ever since he had become acquainted with Long Chen's style had not changed. That little brat Yuncheng actually went to find Long Chen without telling me. He knew what would happen from the start, said Xia Yuyang with a bit of dissatisfaction. Xia Yuncheng had been the first to learn that Long Chen had arrived. After that, he ordered his attendant not to tell anyone else and then rushed to the Wine God Palace with Xia Yuluo. By the time Xia Yuyang had learned of his arrival, Long Chen was already traveling in a man-carried carriage. Xia Yuncheng actually hadn't reported any of this to him. This child Yuncheng just has that character, and he's been holding back his anger for so long. Last time he wanted to attack, you scolded him so harshly. Now that Long Chen has arrived, if he could still hold back, I would suspect that he was replaced with someone else. He calculated correctly. As long as it was Long Chen acting, you definitely wouldn't interfere, said Xia Yuncheng's master. Xia Yuyang shook his head. If you don't think about the consequences of your actions, you won't have any big accomplishments. That's not certain. For example, there's that example right there. Xia Yuncheng's master pointed at Long Chen. Xia Yuyang was immediately unable to retort. His expression became odd. He sighed. Fine, up to them. My way of handling things isn't necessarily suitable for them. Don't worry, don't you know what kind of person Long Chen is? Furthermore, other than Long Chen, you still have other trump cards. Xia Yuyang nodded with a smile. Although Long Chen's arrival was not within his plans, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They've apologized now. Shouldn't you let them go? Shouted Lu Qingfeng. Each of his words was spat out from between his teeth. His killing intent had reached a peak. Are you an idiot or deaf? Did you forget what I just said? I said you have to agree to 2 of my conditions. Apologizing was one, but there's another. I'll only release them when it's done, said Long Chen. Lu Qingfeng's fists creaked from how hard he clenched them. Flames almost spat out of his eyes, but Long Chen had truly said that. If looks could kill, Lu Qingfeng's sharp gaze would have ripped Long Chen into a million pieces. His hatred for him could no longer be described with words. The second condition is very simple. I'm rather lazy and I don't want to walk. I want all of you to drag me toward the 9 Serenities heavenly river valley. After he said this, those experts didn't need any urging. They all summoned wings and flew while carrying Long Chen. Brat, if I don't kill you, I'll never call myself Lu Qingfeng again, roared Lu Qingfeng as he followed after them. Some rather powerful experts also followed from a distance. They all wanted to know who this fellow who refused to reveal his face was. Why did his voice sound a bit familiar? Those below soul transformation are not permitted to leave the city. You can watch from within the city. Xia Yuyang's voice rang throughout the capital. Light flew out of the imperial palace and formed a huge screen in the air from which it was possible to see Long Chen's carriage. Long Chen put away the chains, releasing the people. He also left the carriage and simply floated in the air. Speak, who are you? I Yu Qingfeng, do not kill the nameless. Long Chen slowly pulled back his hood, revealing his face. Lu Qingfeng's pupils shrank. At the same time, all the commoners who saw that face let out a cheer. The National Protector, Great General Long Chen. When they saw Long Chen's face, all the Grand Xia's people let out a cheer along with shouting the title he had been given back then. Last time when Long Chen had come to the Grand Xia, Xia Yin had bestowed Long Chen with an official position, naming him the Grand Xia National Protector, Great General Long Chen. Long Chen. Lu Qingfeng's pupils narrowed. He clearly recognized Long Chen. Of course, that wasn't anything to be curious about. As long as one's cultivation base had reached this level, only a few wouldn't recognize him. Although most people hadn't seen him in person, photographic jades of him had spread throughout the eastern Xian region. His heroic appearance and those unchanging black robes were easily recognizable. I said that I often bullied others, but I only bully the strong. Now, are you convinced by that statement? Asked Long Chen coldly. Cheering sounds came from the city. Now that they knew it was Long Chen saying these words, they were even more powerful. These words were too arrogant, so arrogant that it was impossible to retort. During this time, Long Chen had destroyed dozens of sects, the Pill Tower, and the Bloodkill Hall's stronghold. Which one of those wasn't a shockingly huge affair? Just as Long Chen said, if he had to bully someone, he only bullied the strong. As for Lu Qingfeng and the others who had come to bully the Grand Xia's commoners, they were completely different from him. The people who had been chained by Long Chen and filled with hatred now felt a burst of terror as they realized who he was. Who was Long Chen? He was someone who dared to smash the Bloodkill Hall's killing god statue. He was a madman who dared to destroy the Pill Tower. To have come out with their lives after becoming enemies with him was an unimaginable blessing. Long Chen, don't be so arrogant. Rumor is that you have a divine item as protection. If it weren't for that divine item, trash like you would have long since been killed, sneered Lu Qingfeng. Relying on external power instead of one's true power was nothing to be proud of. What a huge joke. Each treasure I have was gained through risking my life. On the other hand, the so-called heavenly geniuses like you were all gifted with treasures. That includes all the resources spent on you. They were all offered by your sects and families. According to your own words, that's all external power. If your reincarnation arts weren't so good, people like you would have long since been sent back to reincarnate, sneered Long Chen. Lu Qingfeng's primal chaos manifestations surged violently. Long Chen, don't think that you can look down on others just because you've defeated a few soul transformation Empyreans. The power of Empyreans isn't something someone like you can comprehend. Lu Qingfeng's manifestation grew stronger and stronger, and it was like a huge ball of light. The aura of primal chaos shook the sky. He looked like an emperor. Set off by his manifestation, he looked so imposing that others wouldn't dare to look at him. The pressure of the heavenly Daos caused even Xia Yunchong, Xia Yuluo, and a few other confident experts to retreat further. Although they had heard that Celestials would have no choice but to submit in front of Empyreans, people were prideful and refused to accept that just based on the word of other people. However, now that they experienced that terrifying heavenly Dao pressure, they were all shocked. The current Lu Qingfeng was no longer a person but a representative of the heavenly Daos. He was completely irresistible. Xia Yuluo was pale. For the first time, she felt some worry that Long Chen would be defeated. That heavenly Tao pressure was just that powerful, invoking a feeling of reverence and terror. Just how was someone supposed to fight that? No matter how strong a person was, just how were they supposed to fight against the very heavens? Don't worry. This isn't the first time Long Chen's fought against an Empyrean. He'll be fine, said Xia Yunchong. He was also suppressed by the heavenly Taos, but he cultivated the undefeatable Tao. His fear toward the heavenly Taos was not as strong as others. Any experts who dared to go out of the city to watch the fight had reached at least the soul transformation realm and were confident in their power. But now, just Lu Qingfeng's aura made their hearts turn cold. They realized that they were nothing more than frogs at the bottom of a well. Empyreans were definitely not an existence they could imagine. Even in the city, 10,000 miles away, the cultivators shivered in the face of this pressure. On the other hand, ordinary people didn't sense much because they weren't celestials. They just watched calmly. Empyreans are even more frightening than we thought. Inside the palace, Xia Yuyang sighed. They were life-star experts, but in front of Empyreans, they were so powerless. This had nothing to do with cultivation base. The suppression of the heavenly Taos was even stronger. Xia Yunchong's master nodded along. He stared closely at Long Chen. Long Chen was still staring at Lu Qingfeng calmly. The suppression of the heavenly Taos could make celestials quiver, but he wasn't a celestial, so he didn't sense it. It just so happens that I want to experience the difference between you and the Empyreans I've spanked, said Long Chen. The primal chaos manifestation behind Lu Qingfeng shook, and his voice rumbled along with the world. That's because the Empyreans you beat had just broken through to soul transformation. They couldn't even count as having reached the first heaven stage. But I have already reached the second heaven stage and condensed my Yuan spirit. Those fellows you encountered before cannot compare to me. Lu Qingfeng suddenly transformed into a ray of light shooting at Long Chen. The space between his eyebrows shone brightly as he let out a punch at Long Chen. A brilliant light exploded from his fist as he unleashed it. It was blinding. There was a sphere of light around his fist with runes revolving within it. The space around his fist crumbled. This was clearly a powerful magical art, but Lu Qingfeng didn't have to chant or form any hand seals. He didn't even seem to make any preparations before unleashing it. Long Chen was surprised. He had fought against Empyreans multiple times, but this was his first time encountering such a thing. He also sent out a punch. Their two fists collided, and the sphere of light around Lu Qingfeng's fist exploded. The huge power blew Long Chen far into the distance. The runes within the sphere seemed to come to life, shooting at him like arrows. Long Chen's fists danced as he smashed the runes to bits. But a few of them passed through his blockade and struck him in the shoulder, leaving several bloody holes. Not bad. Long Chen's expression didn't change. He had intentionally let some of those runes get past to test their power. However, seeing him injured right at the start caused Xia Yuluo to let out a startled cry. Xia Yunchong was also shocked. He hadn't expected Lu Qingfeng to be so powerful, but he comforted his sister. Don't worry, Long Chen still hasn't started fighting for real. His divine ring hasn't appeared. Xia Yolua's expression improved slightly upon hearing that. This is the #1 expert of the Eastern Xian region's junior generation? What an empty title. In front of me you're just trash, sneered Lu Qingfeng. The light between his eyebrows glowed brightly. Within it was a figure that was constantly flashing. Lu Qingfeng waved his hand, and 8 golden spears condensed behind him. Each of them was huge. All their sharp tips were pointed at the distant Long Chen. Now do you know the difference between us? I've already condensed a Yuan spirit and am a true soul transformation expert. Empyreans are different from celestials. For celestials, condensing a Yuan spirit is like a second life. They can survive even if their physical bodies are destroyed, and their Yuan spirits even have a bit of power to fight. But Empyreans can use their Yuan spirits to form hand seals for their true body to unleash magical arts. The two work together during combat. How will you fight me now? Lu Qingfeng laughed coldly. The 8 huge golden spears shot toward Long Chen. The 8 spears caused the sky to crumble as they pierced through it. This was yet another powerful magical art, and its power was even greater than the previous one. So that's the case. So that's the strongest point of the soul transformation realm. Long Chen looked at the light coming from Lu Qingfeng's forehead. Within it, he finally saw a tiny figure constantly forming hand seals. As it made hand seals, the 8 spears blazed with light. Divine Ring. A 5-colored divine ring appeared in the air behind Long Chen as he smashed the first spear with his fist. The spear exploded. Long Chen punched 7 more times, destroying the rest of the spears. He had just destroyed the spears when a crescent blade flew by his neck, almost cutting his head off. How fast? Long Chen's expression changed as he looked into the distance with a touch of killing intent in his eyes. Fast? This isn't fast yet. I'll let you see what is true. Pow. Just as Lu Qingfeng was sneering at him, Long Chen vanished and a large hand slapped across Lu Qingfeng's face, sending him flying. Idiot, I wasn't talking about you. Long Chen suddenly took out Evil Moon, and 5 stars appeared in his eyes. At first, it had looked like Long Chen was at an absolute disadvantage against Lu Qingfeng. Lu Qingfeng unleashed powerful magical arts in an instant, and that crescent blade of his had almost cut Long Chen's head off. But in the blink of an eye, Long Chen had appeared in front of him and sent him flying with a slap, shocking everyone. Furthermore, it was a mystery what Long Chen was referring to when he said, "How fast?" No one knew what he was talking about. I didn't even manage to test how strong you are, but there's no time for that. Long Chen suddenly let out a thunderous roar. It was like the roar of a dragon, shaking the heavens. The divine ring behind him rapidly spun, and 5 stars revolved in his eyes. With the green dragon scales covering his body, he was like an infuriated devil god. Evil Moon slashed out like a bolt of lightning at Lu Qingfeng while he was still in the midst of flying back. Black ripples spread through the air, and a dense killing intent locked onto him. Lu Qingfeng was completely taken by surprise. He had been suppressing Long Chen so hard just now, but things had reversed in an instant. While he was still caught off guard, Long Chen had unleashed such a powerful attack. Magnetic light protection, yin and yang together. Sensing this powerful sensation of death, Lu Qingfeng hastily formed hand seals, summoning a set of copper symbols. There was an image on each symbol, 1 black and 1 white. They looked to be a kind of fish. The small light figure on his head also formed hasty hand seals. In a flash, the energy of heaven and earth gathered toward the symbols. These symbols were called the yin-yang dual symbols, and they were incredibly powerful ancestral items. Through yin and yang, they possessed a great magnetic power. They could combine the yin and yang energies of the world. So what if you have a divine item? In front of me, it's still not enough, shouted Lu Qingfeng. A huge whirlpool of black and white light appeared in front of him. The 2 symbols crashed together. The huge whirlpool exploded, and 2 yin and yang fish smashed toward Long Chen. Long Chen's black saber image struck the 2 fish and exploded. The ground around them cracked apart, and dust surged into the sky. Lu Qingfeng had managed to block Long Chen's attack. But he was appalled. These ancestral items could unleash great power in his hands, but he had almost coughed up blood from that exchange. He was completely shocked by Long Chen's power. Just as he was trying to stabilize himself and see if Long Chen had been injured or not, a multicolored light filled the world. A lightning dragon and a flame dragon roared. One was made of golden flames, while the other was made of 5-colored lightning. They enveloped him. This is Dash. Lu Qingfeng's expression sank. He didn't recognize the heaven-incinerating flame, but he noticed the 5-colored lightning. Sensing a chilling threat from the 5-colored lightning, Lu Qingfeng knew he couldn't allow it to touch him. Yin and yang become one, heaven and earth merge, the sun and moon shine together. Lu Qingfeng threw his symbols into the air and formed rapid hand seals as he chanted. The small figure of light on his head followed his exact movements. Their voices came together, rumbling through heaven and earth. Light exploded from the symbols, forming a huge defensive sphere around him. The sphere of light had countless black and white fish swimming over it, and it rapidly grew stronger as it absorbed more energy from the world. Lei Long and Hua Long wrapped around the sphere, wanting to crush it. But the endless fish were rapidly absorbing energy from the world. Although Lei Long and Hua Long were using their full power, the sphere continued to grow larger. An insignificant trick. I would be embarrassed to show such a thing off, mocked Lu Qingfeng. Break! The two dragons were blown away as the sphere exploded. They were blown into runes. Didn't I already say that in front of me, you're just trash? Lu Qingfeng was sneering when a huge saber image pierced into the sky. A terrifying pressure caused the world to turn still. Split the heavens 5. Evil moon hacked down. The huge saber image blew apart the clouds in the sky. The previous attack was a preparation for this. Long Chen had no time to test Lu Qingfeng's power. The huge saber image was like the blade of a death god cutting through all restrictions or laws. This was Long Chen's full-strength attack. Lu Qingfeng was shocked. Now he realized that Long Chen's previous attack had just been to stall for time for this move. He then spat out a mouthful of blood. The two symbols smashed together once more and grew rapidly, becoming a huge mountain in front of him. Boom! Long Chen's saber struck the huge symbols. They were cut in two, and the saber image continued onward to Lu Qingfeng. When the symbols were broken, Lu Qingfeng coughed up blood and let out a pained roar. His soul was injured, as it was intimately connected to his ancestral items. Having suffered such a backlash, he lost any ability to defend. Long Chen was delighted, but just at that moment, a golden spear pierced through the void, breaking his attack. It was a divine item. Furthermore, it was not unfamiliar to Long Chen. He had been attacked by it back when he had been trapped at the Sha family. Fuck, these bastards are really fast, cursed Long Chen. When he had been testing Lu Qingfeng and said that something was too fast, he wasn't talking about Lu Qingfeng's attacks but these people. He had sensed danger approaching as well as Evelmun's warning. That was why he had been forced to attack without testing Lu Qingfeng's power. Regretfully, he had been a bit too slow. Not being able to kill him made Long Chen sigh in vexation. Suddenly, Long Chen slashed the air in the sky. A huge light barrier appeared where he had struck, one that was covering the world. But as a result of his slash, a huge hole appeared in the barrier, and Long Chen sped through it. Pill Valley idiots, did you think I would fall for the same thing twice? Sneered Long Chen as he flew out. Over 10 figures appeared in the sky, and one of them was holding a diagram. It was Pill Valley's divine item, the Brahma divine diagram. Last time, he had fallen for their trap. He had been sent into the Brahma divine diagram's world without even realizing it and almost died. Now that they tried the same thing, he immediately launched an attack, striking it while its divine energy was at its weakest and breaking out of the seal. Long Chen, you bastard, die! A voice filled with rancor rang out. A magical staff waved through the air, and a huge net enveloped Long Chen. It was Chi Yuneo. If an idiot like you hasn't died, why should I? Sneered Long Chen, slashing Evil Moon out. Evil Moon's black dragon marks lit up slightly, and it easily cut through the net. Long Chen was a bit surprised. He clearly sensed that Chi Yuneo's violet gold soul devouring staff's power had weakened from last time. Was this the backlash of having its karmic luck dissipate? This sudden change caught everyone else off guard. In just these few exchanges, the power of the divine items made them feel minuscule like ants. They didn't even dare to move. Whether it was the experts watching in the distance or the commoners in the city, they were all still. Under the power of divine items, they found it difficult to even blink. You idiots are quite fast, but it's still not enough to kill me. Just calmly wait for me. I'll get back everything you owe me sooner or later. Long Chen's gaze swept over them. Black chi enveloped Long Chen, and his figure became indistinct as Evil Moon brought him away. Even the Brahma divine diagram was not able to stop them any longer. Long Chen, if you dare to leave, I will kill everyone in the Grand Xia ancient nation, shouted Chi Yuneo. Enveloped by the black chi, Long Chen looked coldly at Chi Yuneo and shook his head. If that's your choice, then I can express my regret. If you do that, I won't be able to kill you. After saying that, he vanished, escaping from all these experts just like that. This is all because of the Grand Xia ancient nation. The Grand Xia must pay the price. Lu Qingfeng's expression sank. He flew in front of the capital, and with a cold shout, a huge runic blade slashed toward the city walls. Bastard, do you think there's no one who can stand up against you in the Grand Xia? Xia Yunchong raged. This Lu Qingfeng was actually casting his anger on the Grand Xia after having suffered at Long Chen's hands. Xia Yunchong was about to attack, while within the palace, Xia Yuyang had a golden seal in his hand, ready to activate the Grand Formation. However, before the two of them could do anything, the sky split apart, and a huge butcher's blade slashed down at Lu Qingfeng. Lu Qingfeng's attack was shattered by the butcher blade, and he sent tumbling into the distance, coughing up blood wretchedly. Unable to beat Long Chen, you cast your anger on the innocent commoners. Long Chen said you were trash, but he overestimated you. You're worse than trash. A fat figure with a huge butcher knife appeared. Tu Qianshang seemed bloodthirsty, and he glared at Lu Qingfeng. The fierce young butcher, Tu Qianshang. Startled cries rang out as people recognized this figure whose name had once shaken the eastern Xian region, a figure who had slain countless ancient race experts, becoming the most famous existence of his time. Wielding a butcher's blade that was even larger than he was, Lu Qianshang pointed at the people before him. If you want to kill Long Chen, no one will bother you. But if you try to use the Grand Xia's commoners to threaten Long Chen, don't blame me for being merciless with my butcher's blade. Arrogance. Who do you think you are? Qi Yunao didn't recognize Tu Qianshang. Although he had been a sect master, he wasn't very old, and he was someone who didn't care about old legends. Seeing a random fatty appear in front of him, he waved his staff, and divine light lit up the sky, transforming into a huge tiger that pounced at Tu Qianshang. Tu Qianshang suddenly took out a jug of wine and gulped a few mouthfuls of it. After tossing it aside, people saw that his eyes had turned completely red. He slashed the tiger with his butcher's blade. Boom! The tiger exploded, and the violet gold soul-devouring staff in Qi Yunao's hand trembled. How is that possible? He used mortal power against divine energy? Qi Yunao was shocked. His arm had almost broken from that exchange. Be careful, everyone. The Wine God Palace's disciples have a secret art that can allow them to draw on the blessing of their wine god while they're in a drunken state. They can temporarily gain some divine power, warned a white-haired elder who had come with Qi Yunao and the others. Most of these people were familiar faces to Long Chen. There was the Sha family head, the Preng race's leader, and the Flame Divine Palace's vice palace master. There were only 6 people that he didn't recognize. The rest were people who had attacked in the Sha family. At this time, the vice palace master was standing behind the white-haired elder. The Brahma divine diagram, which he had been in control of last time, was now in the white-haired elder's hands. This white-haired elder was the Flame Divine Palace's master. As soon as he had received news that Long Chen had appeared in the Grand Xia ancient nation, he had not hesitated to use a huge amount of energy to activate the Brahma divine diagram and tear through the void to reach here. He didn't even bother with transportation formations. In the end, Long Chen still got away. But as the palace master, he had great experience and immediately recognized Tu Qianshang's current state. At this time, Tu Qianshang began a fight with a different expert with a sword. That sword was also a divine item, and after a brief exchange, both sides retreated, having tied. However, when they retreated, everyone saw that there was a fist-sized nick in Tu Qianshang's blade. Well, after all, that's not a divine item. No matter how strong an ancestral item is, it can't contend against divine items. The elder from the Huayun sect sighed with pity. It wasn't that Tu Qianshang wasn't strong enough, but that he didn't have a divine item. Naturally, he was at a disadvantage. Either scram or die. Qi Yunao came flying over with the violet gold soul-devouring staff, and divine light was blazing from its head. He had activated all its power. If Tu Qianshang refused to dodge, then with his already damaged butcher's blade, he might very well just be killed with this one attack. After all, the violet gold soul devouring staff's power was not something an ordinary divine item could compare to. Suddenly, the sky trembled, and a ray of light shot out from deep within the city. It instantly reached in front of Tu Qianshang and struck Qi Yuneo's staff. A powerful explosion rocked the sky. Qi Yuneo's arms exploded, while the violet gold soul devouring staff shot far into the distance due to that ray of light. Qi Yuneo's body became covered with cracks, and he coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood before fainting, falling from the air. Everyone, including the palace master, was shocked. That was especially true when they saw what the ray of light was. It was not a warhammer. It was not a divine spear. It was a very small, almost imperceptible object. It was emerald green, and it floated in the air after blowing away the staff. It was a small wine cup. Yes, a small wine cup. It had no divine presence to it, simply an ordinary wine cup. However, it had sent the famous violet gold soul devouring staff flying, and it wasn't damaged in the slightest. Young people shouldn't be so angry. Why must you fight to the point of either you die or I die? Life is precious, and the Tao is boundless. Just fighting to cross the Tao is an endless journey, so why must you waste time on such nonsensical struggles? Why not drink a cup of wine and relax? An aged voice rang out. It was calm, without the slightest anger, and sounded like the advice of a kind elder. The Wine God Palace's high priest. The palace master and the others' expressions all changed. Perhaps only the Wine God Palace's high priest had the ability to send a divine item flying with an empty cup. Senior High Priest, this matter has nothing to do with the Wine God Palace, said the Flame Divine Palace's palace master. Before the High Priest could reply, Tu Qianshang cursed, "Don't spout bullshit, how is it not related to the Wine God Palace? If it weren't for your Pill Valley supporting those brats from the Grand Han, would they be so arrogant as to come bully the Grand Xia? You were clearly testing the attitude of the Wine God Palace, and now, you've succeeded. We'll express our attitude right here and now. Although we do not interfere in the struggles of the world, we are not so easily bullied. Perhaps others might be afraid of Pill Valley, but the Wine God Palace is not. Although we only have 3,000 true disciples, if Pill Valley wants to play, then we'll properly play with you." The Huayan sect's elder smiled. He didn't know why Pill Valley would be so foolish as to antagonize everyone. Now they had done it. Even the Wine God Palace had been provoked by them. "High Priest, is this the attitude of your Wine God Palace?" demanded the Flame Divine Palace's palace master coldly. "The attitude of any of my disciples is the attitude of my Wine God Palace. Go back and tell Yu Shaoyun that the current era is not the old era. No one can control it. If anyone tries, no matter what support they have, the only conclusion will be a miserable death," said the High Priest lightly. But his position was clear. The future of my Pill Valley is not for you to worry about. You should worry about yourselves instead," sneered the palace master. The High Priest did not get angry, instead calmly saying, "What is there for us to worry about? We're just a bunch of bored people who drink until we sleep. We live in the moment. But if anyone tries to prevent our peace, we'll have no choice but to fight. You should know, sometimes drunkards don't even know what they'll do when they're drunk. There's no need for Pill Valley to intentionally antagonize me or test the bottom line of the Wine God Palace. If I wanted to kill you, even if you have the Brahma Divine Diagram, you wouldn't have any chance to escape. That's all I have to say. If you refuse to accept that, then don't blame me for bullying the weak." The High Priest's voice might be calm, but each of his words had power. They revealed his great confidence, shocking others. Each word was like a hammer, striking them in their hearts. Even with the Brahma Divine Diagram, it would be impossible to escape? The Flame Divine Palace's palace master's expression changed several times, but in the end he didn't dare to say anything. Waving his hand, he led his people away. So the Grand Han was supported by Pill Valley. No wonder they were so arrogant. "Brothers, break the legs of all these dogs of the Grand Han and toss them out of the Grand Xia. Don't let these people stain our home any longer." The Flame Divine Palace's group left along with Lu Qingfeng, but the others were ignored, resulting in the Grand Xia's people turning on them. The Grand Xia's experts were like a flood, attacking those people who were supposedly from the Grand Han but had been invited from other regions. If they didn't fight back, then they had their legs broken at most. But those who resisted were beaten until they were dead. One person loudly shouted, "Break all their legs, especially their third leg. Make sure to break it into 18 pieces, or I won't be able to resolve my resentment." Another person asked, "Then what about the women?" It was chaos as those experts feigning they were from the Grand Han were beaten away. Tu Qianshang returned to the Wine God Palace. After arriving in front of the high priest, he stared at his butcher's blade with an aggrieved expression. Long Chen was right. If you could master the balance between hard and soft power, then just reaching 30% in that soft power would have kept your blade intact. "Now it's too late," said the high priest. "What do we do now? Should we eliminate them?" Looking at his blade, killing intent rose in Tu Qianshang's heart. "We still need to watch from the side. The great era is silently descending. A storm is coming. Heavenly geniuses will rise in this chaotic era, and it's still impossible to tell who will rise and who will drown. Pill Valley isn't so foolish. Their motives are unfathomable as they intentionally draw more chaos to the mix. The situation still isn't clear, so for now, it's best not to make any rash moves. We also have no need to do such a thing. We just need to watch Long Chen and how he disrupts things." The high priest raised his wine cup with a smile. He had vaguely sensed something about Long Chen. "What are you thinking? Don't tell me you're going to jump off a cliff?" Long Chen stood on the precipice of a cliff, a bottomless pit below him. He was looking down absent-mindedly. Evil Moon finally spoke. Long Chen had been brought here by Evil Moon to escape their encirclement. It had been over 2 hours, and Long Chen had simply been standing there like a stone statue. Even Evil Moon became curious. "Evil Moon, if I'm surrounded by powerful enemies again, don't save me." Looking at the pit below him, Long Chen made his resolve. "Are you crazy? If I didn't bring you away, you'd have definitely died," said Evil Moon. It didn't know if Long Chen had gone crazy to say such a brainless thing. Long Chen shook his head. "You don't understand. Right now, I'm growing too dependent on your power. I am losing confidence in myself, and that will affect my Tao heart. I want to become an expert, a true expert. I can't depend on others. I can only rely on myself. With you present, my sense of danger will become slow, and fleeing as soon as I encounter experts will be a blow to my confidence." "Is that a joke? Those people were 2 major realms above you and had divine items. Without me, what are you going to use to fight them?" demanded Evil Moon. "You wouldn't understand. To sum it up, I am fated to be courting death all the time. If I don't court death now, death will creep up on even faster in the future. Ever since I started cultivating the 9-star hegemon body art, my fate was practically set in stone. Right now, I am a caterpillar, and if I want to become a butterfly, I have to endure the pain of the cocoon. During this time, no one can help, and if anyone does, it would just be harming me. If a caterpillar does not go through the struggle of the cocoon, it will never become a butterfly. If someone cuts the cocoon and lets the caterpillar out of it, without having gone through that struggle, it won't know how to fly. In the end, the caterpillar will simply die, never able to spread its wings. I am the same, so starting today, I definitely won't run. Even if I am in desperate straits, don't save me," said Long Chen. "It seems like there's a bit of logic in your words, but if you die, you'll lose everything. How will you become a butterfly then?" asked Evil Moon. "It's because my goals are very big. If I am unable to even handle the danger before me, how will I face the even greater dangers in the future? After having fled these times, I can clearly sense the power of the 9-star hegemon body art dropping. It's also forming a kind of rejection to me," said Long Chen with a grave expression. He truly sensed the 9-star hegemon body art's power weakening. Furthermore, he himself was growing indecisive. He no longer had his absolute confidence to face the whole world. He had to find that confidence again, and the first step was to cut off all paths of retreat and give up his dependence on Evil Moon. Of course, he wouldn't be so foolish as to not use its divine power. It was simply that he wouldn't choose to run. Either he fought to the death or killed his opponent. He had to maintain that sharpness to press forward regardless. Fine, I suppose we can count as having fought shoulder to shoulder. I will respect your dignity, said Evil Moon. Thank you. Speaking of which, have you really not heard of the 9-star hegemon body art? Asked Long Chen. No, I've never heard of it, but Evil Moon seemed to be thinking. But what? Asked Long Chen hastily. But, fuck, it seems I'm missing a few of my memories. I've remembered something but also can't remember it. It was definitely done by that bastard Yun Shang. Cursed Evil Moon. It broke into curses for Sovereign Yun Shang once more. After cursing for a while, its anger was vented a bit, and it said, "Your cultivation technique is very unorthodox. Such a cultivation technique is unique. It doesn't seem like the cultivation technique of the human race, nor of the magical beast race, Xian beast race, blood race, barbarian race, ghost race, devil race, spirit race. Fuck, my head hurts. Damn it, there are even more memories missing than I thought. That bastard Yun Shang." Evil Moon once more broke into curses after listing hundreds of different races. Evil Moon, you actually know this many races? Can you explain them to me? Don't ask me about those. I'm missing a portion of my memories, and what you're asking me is in that missing piece. If I try to forcibly recall them, it hurts, shouted Evil Moon painfully. Long Chen could only shut his mouth when it came to this. After a while, Evil Moon's pain faded, but Long Chen didn't bring it up again. However, for Evil Moon to list so many races shocked Long Chen. He hadn't expected there to be so many races in this world. Even in the Martial Heaven continent, what he had seen was just the tiniest corner of it. This world was truly enormous. Although Long Chen didn't know whether Evil Moon even had a head or brain, it seemed mentioning this would give it a headache regardless, so he didn't bring it up. Long Chen sank into thought. Pill Valley was after him. Last time, after he had tried to soul-search that disciple of Heavenly Fate Island, he had exchanged blows with a mysterious elder. That made him feel like there was even more danger than he thought. The curious thing was, on his way back to the Central Plains, on his path to the Grand Han, everything had gone smoothly. He hadn't fallen into any traps. After considering this from multiple angles, he concluded that it was very likely due to Evil Moon, and that Heavenly Fate Island was unable to directly calculate anything about him. They had to read other people's fate lines to determine the general possibility of where he would be. As for his trip to the Grand Xia, it was only after he had revealed his face and fought against Lu Qingfeng that Pill Valley's experts had come. Furthermore, there had been no one from Heavenly Fate Island. That meant that they hadn't known he would be there. That was because he hadn't brought any direct blessing or disaster to the Grand Xia upon going there, so Heavenly Fate Island hadn't been able to find that he would go there. In other words, as long as his goal wasn't very obvious, it would be very difficult for Heavenly Fate Island to calculate where he would be based on the flow of fate of his possible targets. It seems I'll have to calm down a bit. I'll first raise my cultivation base. I don't know when I'll finally be able to reach soul transformation, sighed Long Chen as he tossed a pill in his mouth. Although he had won in his fight against Lu Qingfeng, that didn't make him excited. Instead, he was solemn. Once Empyreans reached soul transformation and fully condensed their Yuan spirits, their Yuan spirit would help them fight, allowing them to unleash magical arts while the main body fought. That was the most frightening aspect of soul transformation Empyreans. In that fight, he had felt like he was fighting two people at once. Although on the surface it looked like Lu Qingfeng was weak as he had almost been killed, that was because he hadn't had a divine item to protect himself. If he had, he would have been able to block Long Chen's full-strength attack, or even if he was injured, his Yuan spirit would take the place of his main body to form hand seals and fight back. To defeat him would have been much more difficult. Most importantly, although he was an Empyrean, Lu Qingfeng did not possess as frightening a background as Sha Guangyan, Premonition, or Yi Qingquang. After such a long time, the three of them should have already solidified their cultivation bases and condensed their Yuan spirits. Their power level would have completely transformed from the last time Long Chen fought them. His own cultivation base was rising too slowly, and he could only rely on medicinal pills. Although he had plenty of them, he digested them too slowly. He ended up crushing the few in his hands just to vent. Long Chen, are you not worried about your foundation growing unsteady if you eat medicinal pills like this? Asked Evil Moon. That's not something I have to worry about. Even if I ate a giant vat of pills a day, I would be fine. It just takes me too long to digest them, sighed Long Chen. This was the most irritating point of the 9-star hegemon body art. After reaching the 10th heaven stage, the amount of energy required to advance again was ridiculous. He was eating medicinal pills every day and was still not seeing much progress. He was as slow as a snail, but there was no way around it. Long Chen, I have a divine ability in my memories called Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth. It's a secret art of my dark evil dragon race. Do you want to learn it? Asked Evil Moon. A divine ability called Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth? You'll teach it to me? Long Chen was surprised. Yes. I feel like you aren't bad. After considering it, I've decided I won't mind teaching it to you. My dark evil dragon race relies on devouring other beasts to advance, and will even devour members of our own race. That's why we need a powerful devouring ability to digest the energy of our opponents. If you learned it, it would be greatly beneficial to your digestion of medicinal pills. However, this divine ability is unique to the dark evil dragon race. I can't guarantee that you're capable of using it, said Evil Moon. That's fine. If I really can learn it, I will owe you a favor, promised Long Chen. Don't need it. What am I supposed to do with a favor from you? With your ability to court death, no lives would be enough. I'm teaching you it for myself. On the off chance that you manage to live, my seal will be undone and I'll regain my freedom, said Evil Moon. On the off chance? You have this little confidence in me? Long Chen was speechless. I'm only confident in your ability to court death. As for your ability to stay alive, I have no confidence in that, said Evil Moon. Fine, up to you. Hurry and teach me this Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability, said Long Chen expectantly. Long Chen coughed up a mouthful of blood while sitting at the cliffside. That blood contained many broken bits of his internal organs. He didn't even remember how many times this had happened now. The evil dragon race's Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability was too difficult to train in. According to Evil Moon, he needed to condense 81 divine runes inside his stomach. These runes were things he had never seen before, and each of them possessed great destructive power. An explosion from one of them could shatter a mountain. Fortunately, Long Chen's physical body was strong enough. He had these runes slowly plaster themselves to the lining of his stomach. That was no problem. Unfortunately, when he activated the runes, his stomach would instantly explode. If it was anyone else, they'd have long since turned to dust. However, he was still heavily injured each time. If it weren't for the support of the world trees, Long Chen would have long since given up. This was not a technique for a human. It seems you really won't be able to learn it. After all, it's a divine ability of my dark evil dragon race. Although you possess dragon blood, you don't possess dark energy. Just relying on brute force to condense the formation is essentially impossible, said Evil Moon after Long Chen failed multiple times. It truly did seem a bit crazy for a human to cultivate a divine ability of the evil dragon race. Long Chen didn't reply. He was constantly attempting to form the formation, but whenever it formed, it would explode violently, and there was no way for his stomach to bear that power. I'm so stupid. Long Chen suddenly clapped his leg. He waved his hand, and Lei Long appeared before him. After that, he formed hand seals, and divine runes began to form in the air. What are you doing? Asked Evil Moon. Long Chen didn't reply. He continued forming hand seals, and 81 divine runes quickly formed in the air. It's useless. When these runes are gathered together, without dark energy as a mediator, they'll immediately explode, said Evil Moon. Ignoring Evil Moon's advice, Long Chen had Lei Long devour those divine runes at the exact instant that they gathered together. For now, I won't create the formation. I'll have Lei Long use its destructive power to reduce the power of these runes until they only have a trace of their power. That way, when I absorb them into my body and condense the formation, their power won't be so great and my body will be able to handle it, said Long Chen. That's one option. But even if you can pull it off, such a weak formation will be useless. 99% of its effectiveness will be lost. There's no way around it. These runes come from my soul, so after condensing the formation, I can nourish them with my soul. Right now, they're too berserk and refuse to listen. I'll need to weaken them and try again. Bang! At this moment, an explosive sound came from Lei Long's mouth. Lei Long opened its mouth, and Long Chen was speechless. The divine runes had been destroyed already. Lei Long transformed into a foot-long dragon that wrapped around Long Chen's wrist, gently rubbing his arm with its head. It's fine. It's not your fault. We have no experience. We just have to try a few more times, comforted Long Chen. Due to not controlling its thunder force perfectly while suppressing the divine runes, Lei Long had caused the divine runes to explode. This process was very difficult to pull off, especially toward the end. As the power of the divine runes weakened, Lei Long also needed to weaken its own power, or if their power was unbalanced, it would cause the runes to be destroyed again. From the start, Long Chen hadn't expected to succeed in one try. With his bad luck, he never hoped to succeed that easily. As expected, his experience was accurate. He failed 7 times in a row, but he wasn't shaken at all. He persevered until Lei Long slowly opened its mouth, revealing a ball of 81 dim divine runes. Long Chen sighed with relief. He had finally succeeded. However, this was just one of the steps. He still had no assurance in really learning the divine ability. The divine runes, which had been shining brightly and releasing shocking divine power, were now dim. Long Chen cautiously swallowed the ball of runes and didn't immediately start once they were in his stomach. It was only after an incense stick's worth of time that he sent his spiritual strength into them to slowly paste them onto the lining of his stomach. I've done everything I can. Whether or not this is possible will be seen now. Long Chen clenched his teeth, and his spiritual strength spread through the divine runes, linking them into a formation. The divine runes lit up, and his internal organs trembled. The 81 divine runes split up and covered all his internal organs. They were fracturing over and over, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Countless divine runes filled his insides. What's going on? Evil Moon was shocked. Shouldn't I be asking you that? Demanded Long Chen. I get it. Because you don't have the body of an evil dragon, there's been a mutation in the Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability, or perhaps, no, nothing. Evil Moon suddenly shut its mouth. It had been about to say that the mutation was because of Long Chen's cultivation technique. However, it was impossible to say anything for sure, so it decided not to randomly guess. The runes inside Long Chen's body were swimming around his organs. They weren't under his control at all and quickly wrapped around his organs. Suddenly, Long Chen's body began to wither. This sudden change made Long Chen jump in fright. He felt like the energy inside his organs had been sucked dry. Just as he was shocked and didn't know what was going on, endless life energy flowed out of the primal chaos space and poured into his organs. The runes lit up once more, greedily devouring the life energy. The dim runes began to shine even brighter. Are they parasitic? Long Chen shivered. He felt like these divine runes were more like leeches, sucking away his energy. No, they're not like that. These divine runes were condensed by you, and they'll work for you. This mutation in Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth has surpassed my understanding. However, I'm sure that the strengthening of the divine runes in your body is a good thing. It will make your internal organs even stronger. You'll also be able to use even more power, said Evil Moon. There's such a thing? Long Chen was startled. Of course, both humans and beasts have weak insides. That's why they have their physical body to protect them. While it looks like you are able to unleash 100% of your power, you really are only capable of releasing 80% of it. Perhaps you don't even know that. The reason is that if you did unleash 100% of your power, even before you attacked your opponent, your internal organs would be crushed. That's why you instinctively only use as much energy as your internal organs can bear. But now that they're strengthening, the amount of power you can unleash will also increase. Even your defensive strength will increase. This is definitely a good thing, said Evil Moon. The runes in Long Chen's body grew brighter, but he found that these runes seemed to have merged together with his organs. As they absorbed more life energy, they constantly strengthened. After 2 hours, Long Chen's internal organs were clear, and it was possible to see countless runes revolving within. They had formed a powerful formation. Long Chen, the Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability has undergone a huge mutation within you. I'd guess that your devouring power is 10 times greater than my evil dragon race. Do you want me to transmit a secret art to you? You won't even need to fight any longer. As long as you find someone displeasing to the eye, you can devour them in one gulp, said Evil Moon, a bit moved by this change. It had to be known that Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth was a unique divine ability of the evil dragon race. It was used to digest the flesh of experts to quickly strengthen themselves. Evil Moon had not expected it to undergo such a huge change when Long Chen used it. It had actually formed an absolutely terrifying divine formation. Using it to just devour medicinal pills was an absolute waste, as it could be used to defeat enemies easily. Eat people? Long Chen immediately felt a wave of nausea, especially when he thought of the enemies he would devour. There would be old ones, fat ones, people who hadn't bathed in 800 years. Long Chen instantly made his decision. No, I won't learn it. Spare me. Long Chen shook his head like a rattle. He wouldn't do such a thing even if he was beaten to death. Evil Moon tried to convince him a bit more. Whatever he devoured into his stomach would be ground down by the formation and instantly absorbed. There wouldn't be any taste. Before Evil Moon even finished speaking, Long Chen vomited. Seeing that, Evil Moon kept its mouth shut and gave up on that thought. The strengthening of Long Chen's organs continued for a full day. Finally, the divine runes stopped shining, and his organs returned to their normal state. But he could sense the huge change. Just as Evil Moon had said, the strengthening of his organs had resulted in his power increasing once more. Let's test the results. Long Chen took out a jug of wine with crushed medicinal pills mixed into it. He opened his mouth and gulped the wine down with the medicinal pills. Because Long Chen wasn't wild, he couldn't just eat the pills dry, so he used the wine to wash them down. All you need to do is will it, and you can use your blood to activate the formation. However, the Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability of yours has differed greatly from my evil dragon races. You should test it out slowly, advised Evil Moon. According to the method Evil Moon had taught him, Long Chen tried activating the divine runes in his stomach. They lit up and began to revolve around his organs like stars. As they revolved, a huge formation formed. The medicinal pills he had devoured were crushed by the divine light and their energy was sent throughout his body. How fast? Long Chen was delighted. If it was before, he could only digest 100 top-grade medicinal pills in one day. If he ate too many, he wouldn't be able to digest them, and their energy would just accumulate in his body and slowly be digested. But this time, all the medicinal pills were digested in half a breath's time. He gulped more and more pills down, finishing half a month's work in just a moment. I'm telling you, using this divine ability to digest just medicinal pills is a waste. You should consider my suggestion. I'm being serious. With the strength of the formation in your stomach, all you have to do is recondense each rune and let them reach maturity, and I guarantee your devouring ability would be on the same level as the evil dragon race's innate devouring ability. You can just eat whoever refuses to submit. You won't even need to fight, said Evil Moon. Stop. I can't handle it. Furthermore, I cultivate the 9-star hegemon body art. I walk the path of the hegemon, and I don't like cheap tricks. Don't bring this up again. Long Chen hastily shook his head, feeling like he might vomit again. This Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability was truly useful to him. There were mountains of medicinal pills in his primal chaos space right now thanks to Hualong and the blazing dragon cauldron's work. Now, the pills poured into his stomach like a river and were instantly digested, their energy spreading through his body. Wait a sec. Long Chen suddenly noticed that this time, the medicinal energy was going to a different path. Before, it would go through his 4 chi Cs, but now they were going through his 108,000 stars first. Long Chen carefully examined the divine runes covering his organs. He was shocked to find that there were exactly 108,000 of them. They perfectly matched the 108,000 stars in his acupuncture points. What is this? Could it be that Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth had mutated because of the 9-star hegemon body art? If that was the case, then just what huge origin did the 9-star hegemon body art have to have? Even the dark evil dragon race's divine ability was mutated because of it. Waves soared in Long Chen's heart. It took just 3 days of crazily devouring medicinal pills for him to consume all the medicinal pills in the primal chaos space. Finally, his cultivation base made another breakthrough. His 4 chi Cs shook as his powerful aura soared. Evil Moon, this Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability is really, really amazing. Long Chen didn't even know what words he could use to praise it. In truth, you could make it even more amazing. Stop, let's switch topics. Long Chen hastily flapped his hand. Evil Moon was still unwilling to give up with that idea. Then there's nothing to say. Send me out with the heaven-flipping brick. I'll find a place to test its progress and see how much control it has now, said Evil Moon. Long Chen released Evil Moon and the heaven-flipping seal. Evil Moon took the heaven-flipping seal and vanished from sight. Long Chen didn't know whether or not it was because Evil Moon was embarrassed about testing the heaven-flipping seal in front of him, but he didn't bother with them. Long Chen summoned the blazing dragon cauldron and began to personally refine pills to increase his cultivation base. Although Hua Long and the blazing dragon cauldron could refine top-grade pills, Long Chen refined top-grade giant pills to increase his efficiency. In order to save time, before this, Long Chen would refine a few top-grade giant pills. The energy in just one giant pill was equivalent to dozens of the same pill at the same quality. When he was bored, he could just toss one into his mouth instead of constantly swallowing normal pills. However, now he could digest medicinal pills rapidly. It was just a pity that he no longer had the pills from Pill Valley that could increase cultivation base. He had consumed them all. He regretted not being strong enough at that time, wasting a large portion of their energy. If he had possessed this devouring ability back then, he would have reached the soul transformation realm from devouring those ancient pills. Then he wouldn't be chased down like a rabbit now. With Long Chen personally refining pills, he popped giant pills into his mouth as soon as they came out of the cauldron. Dense medicinal energy would spread throughout his body. One day after another passed. He refined and ate pills day and night. After half a month, he made another breakthrough, reaching the 12th heaven stage of Jade Core. After another month, he suddenly felt his aura grow unstable again, and he hastily suppressed that energy. I've reached the peak of the 12th heaven stage. As soon as I break through to the 13th heaven stage, it'll draw heavenly tribulation. Long Chen was absolutely delighted. Now, as long as he wished it, he could immediately call down his tribulation. Hee, tribulation. I'll need to find a place with good scenery and plenty of people for it. Just where should I go? Pill Valley? The Corrupt Path? The Ancient Races? The Bloodkill Hall? The Ancient Family Alliance? The Martial Heaven Alliance? Long Chen had a conflicted expression. The one thing he had absolute confidence in was his heavenly tribulation. Wherever he brought it down, well, the entire world would get lively. However, Long Chen also felt an indescribable fear. He didn't know whether it was because he had been running away from his enemies so much that it had caused him to lose confidence in himself, or whether his upcoming tribulation would be absolutely terrifying, but he could smell the scent of death. The Shentian Tower had once told Long Chen that he had learned many things that he shouldn't have at his level. He had touched things related to gods and would very likely bring down divine lightning at his next tribulation. Any divine item would have to undergo tribulation once it was created to solidify its divine nature. The Shentian Tower naturally knew how powerful divine lightning was, so it had given Long Chen a warning. Just as Long Chen was thinking about what place he should undergo his tribulation at, A jade plate on his waist lit up. Long Chen checked it quickly. This plate was the communication jade Wenlong had given him. When he saw the curt message on it, his expression immediately changed. Cloud's in trouble. It was a curt message, but his heart clenched. Cloud had returned to its ancestral lands to receive the baptism of its ancestral blood. That was the only way for it to perfectly advance to the 10th rank. By this time, Cloud should have finished its baptism. He didn't know if Cloud had landed in someone else's hands, or whether or not it had died. Long Chen's expression was gloomy. He looked at this map and rushed toward the closest city. This time, Long Chen didn't use a flying boat. Instead, he sat on a large cyan brick. It was the heaven-flipping seal. Through Evelmun's teachings, the heaven-flipping seal had learned how to use its power, at least on a very basic level. By having it carry him, he could also let the heaven-flipping seal gain more experience in controlling its power. Furthermore, it was a divine item. Its speed was dozens of times greater than a flying boat. He reached his target in just several breaths' time. This was a medium-sized city. Long Chen rushed straight toward its auction house. Once he was there, he immediately showed the jade plate Wenlong had given him. Someone immediately came to send him into a private room. Once he placed the jade plate onto a formation, the formation lit up, and an illusory image appeared before him. The illusory image was of a room, with Zheng Wenlong standing there gravely. Through the formation, Zheng Wenlong said, "Cloud's been captured." "Who did it?" demanded Long Chen coldly. The only thing that comforted him was that Zheng Wenlong said that Cloud was captured, not dead. It was done by the Xian beasts. Rumor is that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race is a traitor of the Xian beasts and have been hunted down by them the entire time. Just yesterday, news came that the Xian beasts had captured one of their surviving members. I didn't pay much attention to that at the time, but then the situation changed. People are saying that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow is the one that's always with you, Cloud, said Zheng Wenlong. He knew just how grave this matter was. The Xian beasts? Are they related to Pill Valley? Asked Long Chen. Although he was infuriated, he maintained his wits. Practically, all the continent's powers are related to Pill Valley. The Xian beasts don't interfere in the outside world's matters, but they do pay attention to what happens. In particular, the ancient races are their descendants. The ancient races look down on humans and always express their loyalty to the Xian beasts. As for you, you've repeatedly challenged the ancient races and killed their experts. The possibility exists that the ancient races would ask for help from the Xian beasts. So there's no way to confirm whether the Xian beasts have joined in because of Pill Valley or the ancient races, said Zheng Wenlong. That's fine. As long as they've done this, they're my enemies. I'm already surrounded by enemies, and I don't mind adding another. Have they revealed their plot? Asked Long Chen. You can look for yourself. They've already laid the trap and it's a seamless one. Zheng Wenlong bitterly smiled. He took out a photographic jade and activated it, revealing an image. When the photographic jade was activated, Long Chen saw an ancient city. In the middle of the city was a giant steel frame. At the top of the frame was a cut-off axe head. The axe head was as large as a mountain and emitted a cold, sharp light. This was a giant guillotine. And captured at the bottom of it, bound by countless chains that pierced through its body, was Cloud. The ground was dyed red with its blood. Cloud. Although Long Chen had prepared himself for this sight, his eyes instantly turned red, and killing intent filled the room. Long Chen clenched his teeth so hard that they creaked. Cloud was currently pierced through with hundreds of thick chains and bound to the guillotine. Its whole body was covered in blood. Its rainbow feathers were now dim, and its wings had even been severed. It lay there, unconscious. Hatred overflowed from Long Chen. Even after calculating things over and over again, he had still fallen for his enemies' scheming. They had actually captured Cloud as a hostage. Long Chen, I know you'll definitely see this sight. How is it? Are you angry? Standing on top of Cloud's head were three figures. They were Sha Guangyan, Premonition, and Yi Qingquang. The one speaking as Sha Guangyan. Although this was just a photographic jade, The three of them were looking right at him. Clearly, they had intentionally spread this photographic jade for him to see. Yes, I really am angry. Long Chun coldly replied, his voice full of killing intent. These people were too despicable. In truth, I really wish I could see your expression when you receive this photographic jade. I'm sure it'll be very marvelous. Long Chen, I heard you're very loyal to your friends. I wonder if that really is true? Now your house pet is in our hands. Don't worry, it hasn't died yet. Sha Guangyan kicked one of the chains beside him, and its runes lit up. Cloud's body shuddered. Clearly, these chains were torture tools. Hee. Sorry, in order to show you that it's still alive, I have to hurt it a bit. You don't mind, do you? Laughed Sha Guangyan with a fake apologetic appearance. Long Chun clenched his fists, wishing to charge right through this image and punch this loathsome face. I won't waste words. Long Chen, you've committed so many nefarious crimes that the entire Eastern Xian region's junior generation has gathered for a dragon slaughtering convention. In the name of upholding justice and removing evil from this world, we will use your steed as a sacrificial offering. Using its blood, we will swear to kill you. If you really have guts, you can bring your Dragon Blood Legion to fight against the Eastern Xian region's top junior generation experts. Don't worry, in the dragon slaughtering convention, life star experts are prohibited from interfering. You'll still have a slight chance of saving your companion. If you win, this cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow will be yours. Of course, if you don't dare to come, then there's nothing left to say. The dragon slaughtering convention will take place next month on the 8th. The location will be the Grand Han Ancient Nation's capital. There are still 27 days from the time of this recording. I've given you enough time to prepare. Whether or not you want to come and save it is up to you. After saying that, Sha Guangyan smiled sinisterly and kicked one of the chains again. The image disappeared, revealing the grave-looking Zheng Wenlong. He had cut off the photographic jade. Is there another section where they tortured Cloud? Long Chen's voice was hoarse, and his gaze was as sharp as a blade. It was a bit frightening. Zheng Wenlong was silent. Long Chen nodded. Good. I always felt like I was good at courting death, but it seems they're not willing to concede defeat to me. I know what I have to do. This is a sure death trap, said Zheng Wenlong. I have no choice. Zheng Wenlong was silent for a moment. If you need any help, just ask. Long Chen's rage softened slightly. Clearly, Zheng Wenlong was willing to use the Huayan sect's power to help him. But he shook his head. You're a businessman. It's not good for you to participate in this kind of struggle. You'd be ruining your own business. Just help me alert the heaven-splitting battle sect to prepare to support me. Let's make this big. Long Chen left the Huayan auction house after that. He silently sat on the heaven-flipping seal as he rushed off. Suddenly, he had a thought, and an emerald leaf appeared in his hand. The emerald leaf was the communication tool the spirit world's life god tree had given him. Mist flowed out of it, condensing into a figure. Hee boss, how are things on your side? Why haven't you sent back the slightest news? The sister-in-laws, they're worried about you. The image revealed Guoran's wretched smile. Long Chen then also saw Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wan. Long Chen, did something happen? Meng Qi was the first to sense something was wrong. Long Chen nodded. Major things have occurred in the Eastern Xian region. Long Chen gave a curt explanation of what had happened during this time. What the fuck? They really are courting death. They destroyed the Dao sect and dared to capture Cloud? Boss, let's gather right now and kill them all, shouted Guoran. Meng Qi's eyes were red. Cloud had been raised by her, and she had the closest connection to it. Long Chen waved his hand. I'm angrier than you are. But this situation is not so simple. The only good thing is that they are using Cloud as a hostage, so Cloud's life isn't in danger yet. How are things on your side? Have the weapons and armor been completed? Oh, what are your cultivation bases like? Long Chen suddenly realized there was a change in them, but because this was just an image, he couldn't sense their auras, so he couldn't be sure. 10 days ago, we went through our collective tribulation in the spirit world. Don't worry, under the life god tree's protection, We attacked the lightning tribulation and raised it to its strongest intensity, said Guoran. But Longchen sensed that he was a bit guilty toward the end. Most likely he had fainted midway and hadn't managed to complete the whole tribulation. By being in the spirit world, their lives were absolutely protected by the spirit trees. Longchen trusted that Gu Yang had raised the tribulation's power to its peak. That was something he was confident in. Fine. Then you all should hurry to condense your Yuan spirits and stabilize your cultivation bases. Raise your combat power as high as possible. There will soon be a fierce battle. The Dragonblood Legion is going to challenge the Eastern Xian region, said Longchen. Boss, don't worry about it. We'll kill them all, said Guoran heroically. He was clearly very confident. Longchen, be careful. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wanner sadly stared at Longchen as the image faded. Longchen took a deep breath and put away the leaf. Flying on the heaven-flipping seal, Longchen found an empty, lifeless place and put it away. Unleashing a furious roar, energy surged in his body. A pillar of light soared into the sky, and the clouds were blown away. The ground splintered as waves of energy surged out of Longchen, crashing against the world. Rumbling came from his body. It was like a hibernating beast had woken and wanted to slaughter the heavens. Longchen was attacking the next level of his cultivation base right here. He reached the 13th heaven stage of Jade Core, and in that instant, the world shuddered and the sky turned dark. A terrifying pressure filled the world. It became a dark world, filled with an air of destruction and annihilation. The world was so dark that the tribulation clouds couldn't be seen. The rumbling of lightning couldn't be heard. The world was pitch black and deathly silent. I'm not afraid of the dark. Longchen sneered and reached out to summon Evil Moon. Fuck if you want to die, don't pull me in. There's divine lightning condensing. It will lock onto me if I appear, shouted Evil Moon, refusing to come out. It could see the strangeness of this tribulation. Longchen, this is a tribulation of sure death. Now I understand what kind of existence you are. It's no wonder the heavenly Daos reject you. The power of this lightning tribulation will make it so that the five-colored lightning tribulation you experienced before is nothing in comparison. Divine lightning exists to temper and baptize divine items or divine spirits. But your tribulation lightning is not here to temper you but purely kill you. Neither I nor the heaven-flipping seal can help you. If we appear, the divine lightning will only grow more ferocious. It will become our tribulation, and you would definitely die. Don't worry, I have plenty of experience when it comes to this, said Longchen. How could he not have experience? He had started going through tribulation ever since the blood condensation realm. There probably weren't many people in this world that could compare to him when it came to tribulation experience. Suddenly, a five-colored bolt of lightning appeared in the endless darkness, striking Longchen. The very first attack was actually the strongest destructive five-colored lightning. The five-colored lightning crashed toward Longchen. Following the first bolt, the dark world became bright once more. Countless streaks of lightning could be seen in the sky, and they began to fall one by one at Longchen. The lightning was berserk and merciless, possessing a pure destructive will. Anyone else would have been killed by the first attack. However, Longchen was fearless. Lei Long already possessed the power of five-colored lightning, so he had no fear of this lightning. He allowed it to strike his body. Then he calmly sat and formed hand seals. Spiritual strength surged within his body. The energy of his four chi seas gathered into his mind sea. Once the energy from all five seas gathered, huge waves exploded in his mind sea. The spiritual Yuan of his four chi seas broke through the restrictions of his mind sea and merged with his spiritual strength. Before reaching the soul transformation realm, a cultivator's spiritual Yuan and spiritual strength were completely separate. While fighting, they might be able to assist each other, but they definitely couldn't merge. Upon entering the soul transformation realm, things were different. Upon reaching this realm, they could merge and change. This was one of the largest mysteries of the cultivation world. The cultivation world's realms and levels were all left behind by their ancestors. Due to how long ago that era was, there was no way to find out the truth about it. The current cultivators were only following what the ancestors had left behind and didn't know why the cultivation realms were what they were. Everyone cultivated this way. First, there were the 5 Hotian realms. This part was the most understandable as it involved laying a foundation. Qi condensation, blood condensation, tendon transformation, bone forging, and meridian opening. After reaching the Xiantian realm, there was no way for anyone to comprehend why there was foundation forging, jade core, soul transformation, life star, etc. They simply followed the teachings of their ancestors, generation after generation, obediently cultivating like this without understanding the profundities behind it. Long Chen was also doing the same. There was no way for him to know the mysteries behind why he had to condense a Yuan spirit. The fact that he had to condense one was simply foundational knowledge that everyone knew. As he sent the energy of his 4 Qi Cs into his mind Ci, he immediately felt like some kind of energy was being sucked out of his body and into his mind Ci. So the soul transformation realm involves merging a person's essence, Qi, and soul into the Yuan spirit. Long Chen came to a sudden comprehension. The so-called essence referred to the physical body. Qi referred to the spiritual Qi and spiritual Yuan. As for the soul, it simply referred to the soul, the spirit. All 3 had to be merged to create the Yuan spirit. As Long Chen sensed these 3 kinds of energy merging within his mind Ci, runes began to appear in it. These were his Yuan spirit primordial runes. They were the foundation for condensing his Yuan spirit. However, each spirit transformation expert would condense a different number of primordial runes. The greater a person's talent, the greater their spiritual strength, and the more Yuan spirit primordial runes they would condense. And the more runes they condensed, the stronger the Yuan spirit would be. According to the records of soul transformation experts, the lowest record was 360 of them, while the highest was 9,999. The records of 9,999 runes were all left behind by rank 9 celestials. As for Empyreans, they kept how many runes they condensed a secret, refusing to tell others. Rumor was that it related to the secrets of the heavenly Daos, so they didn't say anything. Long Chen was also observing his runes carefully, wanting to see how many he would condense. In just a couple breaths' time, over 3,000 of them had appeared. And as time passed, more and more of them condensed. 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 9,900, they've already broken past 10,000. Long Chen was shocked. In less than 10 breaths' time, he had broken past 10,000. It had to be known that most soul transformation experts spent 6 hours condensing their Yuan spirit primordial runes. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. As more and more of them appeared, Evil Moon was at first calm, but when it reached the 3rd hour and broke past 3 million, even Evil Moon was shocked. Long Chen, just what kind of cultivation technique do you use? The number of Yuan spirit primordial runes you've condensed in this short time is even greater than those Empyreans. The Empyreans it was referring to were Sha Guangyan, Premonition, and the others. It was able to calculate how many Yuan spirit primordial runes they had condensed based on the power of their Yuan spirits. Lu Qingfeng had condensed around 3 million runes, while Long Chen had already reached that level. As for Sha Guangyan, Peng Wanxing, and Yi Qinghuang, they were more talented and had condensed around 5 million of them. This was the so-called dividing line that Lu Qingfeng had brought up between Empyreans and rank 9 celestials who had reached the soul transformation realm. Only someone who had condensed 3 million primordial runes was capable of condensing a Yuan spirit that could fight along with the main body. As for rank 9 celestials, their Yuan spirits could at most help them use their weapons or leave them with some chance at surviving once their physical bodies were destroyed. More and more Yuan spirit primordial runes condensed. Their numbers increased faster and faster. 8 million, 10 million, 100 million. Long Chen, you're doomed. Do you realize how slow your cultivation speed will be after condensing this many Yuan spirit primordial runes? First of all, your 9-star Hegemon body art cultivates 100 times slower than other people. And you should know that in the soul transformation, Each increase in cultivation base involves increasing the power of the Yuan spirit. Those Empyreans you've encountered before, they condensed 3 to 5 million runes, while you have 100 million. Even if you were using the same cultivation techniques as them, if it took 1 year for them to increase one level, it would take you 20 to 30 years, said Evil Moon. What? No way. Long Chen suddenly felt a chill. If identical cultivation techniques would take him 20 to 30 times as long, then what about with the 9-star Hegemon body art? The difficulty would be over 100 times greater. His cultivation speed was at the bottom of the entire Dragonblood Legion. Wouldn't it take him 100 years to progress as far as another person progressed in 1 year? Then what would be the point of having a powerful Yuan spirit? The main thing is that if it was just 100 million, then that would be one thing. But yours already passed 150 million. Sigh, I can probably only have a moment of silence for your sorrow, sighed Evil Moon. Even it felt despair for Long Chen. Although it didn't comprehend the 9-star Hegemon body art, it was aware of Long Chen's abnormal difficulty in advancing levels. Originally, it was hoping for Long Chen to break through to the Life Star realm as fast as possible so that he could release its seal. But this made it give up hope. With its great experience, a few hundred or even 1,000 years was nothing. If Long Chen just calmly cultivated, then even if he was slow, he would sooner or later break through to the Life Star realm. But right now, he was surrounded by enemies. Who would let him grow to that level? What the fuck? 200 millions. Fuck, hurry up and stop. Howled Long Chen. He did his best to force the runes into condensing into his Yuan spirit. 200 million? That was 40 to 60 times the amount of a normal Empyrean. This was practically a death sentence. No matter how strong a Yuan spirit was, if his cultivation base didn't ever increase, what was the point? His opponents would quickly advance to the Life Star realm or even higher, while he was stuck at soul transformation. Wouldn't he simply be hunted down like a dog at that time? No, he probably wouldn't even have a chance to run. Long Chen did his best to condense them, but when he gathered the runes together, they were like sand. No matter how he pressed them, they would immediately scatter. He tried 3 times, failing each time. There was simply no way for him to control this. He could only watch as the number of his Yuan spirit primordial runes broke past 300 million. Long Chen almost despaired. If you have guts, just try breaking past 400 million, howled Long Chen. They really did have guts. They quickly broke past 400 million. If you have guts, try breaking past 500 millions. Very quickly, they passed 500 million. Long Chen became silent, no longer daring to shout. He almost felt like he had cursed himself by saying that, which was why they were still rapidly increasing. 600 million, 700 million, 800 million. But even with his mouth shut, his Yuan spirit primordial runes continued to crazily increase in number. Long Chen had already given up on trying to do anything. Evil Moon was also deathly silent. Time passed bit by bit. The lightning tribulation was still crazily attacking him, but he was numb to it. He silently stared at the sea of runes in his mind sea. Fuck, who can say whether this is a blessing or a curse? Come, if you have the ability, just break past 1 billion. This time, Long Chen won. They really did break past 1 billion. They stopped at exactly 1,080 million runes. This time, without Long Chen even having to do anything, the runes all gathered together, forming one giant man. In his mind's eye, this figure was tens of thousands of meters tall. He had long flowing hair and black robes while possessing sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. He looked exactly like Long Chen. This was his Yuan spirit. As soon as it condensed, a whirlpool appeared on Long Chen's forehead, and thunder force poured into his mind sea. The thunder force crazily attacked his giant Yuan spirit, and crackling sounds rang out as they struck it. The giant Yuan spirit absorbed their energy, slowly shrinking. It's tempering your Yuan spirit. Well, perhaps only such a terrifying Yuan spirit is capable of surviving this kind of tempering, said Evil Moon. As the 5-colored lightning poured into his mind sea, his Yuan spirit continued to shrink. But as it shrank, it grew more condensed, and Long Chen began to feel a connection to it. When it reached a size of 300 meters, it slowly opened its eyes. Its eyes shone brightly like golden lanterns. "This is my Yuan spirit?" Long Chen found that he could now control his Yuan spirit. This Yuan spirit was him, and he was the Yuan spirit. It was just their viewpoints that were different. "The thunder force inside here is too weak. Come out and try it." A ray of light shot out of Long Chen's head, and a giant figure appeared before him. Long Chen summoned his Yuan spirit outside his body. The calm rain of lightning on the outside instantly became fierce and chaotic, attacking his Yuan spirit. An endless torrent of 5-colored lightning crashed against Long Chen's Yuan spirit. It focused on the Yuan spirit so much that it no longer cared much about Long Chen's true body. Long Chen looked at his Yuan spirit, while his Yuan spirit looked at him. The feeling was very strange. They were both Long Chen. It was like looking in a mirror, but there was also a different kind of feeling as well. Long Chen slowly closed his eyes, focusing on entering the view of his Yuan spirit. Controlling his Yuan spirit, he launched a powerful punch that shook the sky. "Your Yuan spirit is shockingly powerful. There are both gains and losses, I suppose. Even if your physical body died, your Yuan spirit would still possess great power," said Evil Moon. Long Chen nodded. As the lightning attacked his Yuan spirit, his 108,000 Yuan spirit primordial runes absorbed their energy. They were like pieces of ore, while the thunder force was purifying them. Every single one of them was becoming purer and stronger. Boom. Suddenly, one huge figure after another flew out of the endless darkness. They all pounced on his Yuan spirit. These were 5-colored lightning beasts. Long Chen was already familiar with them. He had Lei Long come out to protect him while he focused on using his Yuan spirit to slay these lightning beasts. His Yuan spirit was a giant right now, and each punch of his blew apart a wave of the lightning beasts. How powerful! Long Chen was shocked that just the power of his Yuan spirit would possess such destructive force. It had to be known that before he had condensed a Yuan spirit, his spiritual strength was not able to condense physical attacks. The only thing he could attack with it was other people's souls. But now he was unleashing physical attacks with it, and it felt the same as when he fought with his physical body. "Split the heavens one." Using his hand as a blade, Long Chen blew apart the lightning beasts. He was also able to use battle skills like this. "Fool, why are you wasting your precious soul energy? Your tribulation has only just started. Are you trying to kill yourself? Cursed Evil Moon. Your Yuan spirit is exhausting the soul energy in your mind-sea. Once that's exhausted, you're done for. The lightning tribulation of the soul transformation realm is targeting your Yuan spirit, and the strongest attacks come at the end. If you use up all your energy by then, you'll definitely die." Long Chen's heart shivered, and he recalled how his Yuan spirit was different from his main body. When his main body fought, it focused on the qi and essence of him. The Yuan spirit used energy from the qi, essence, and soul, but the proportions were different. The qi and essence were only 10%, while the remaining 90% of the energy came from the soul. That 10% of qi and essence was what allowed the Yuan spirit to unleash the true body's magical arts and battle skills. After testing that one attack and receiving Evilmoon's warning, Long Chen didn't continue wasting his spiritual strength. He simply used his Yuan spirit to attack normally. Lei Long was protecting his true body, while it had also summoned hundreds of split bodies to devour the lightning runes in the air. These runes came from the lightning beasts and were the best nourishment for it. As his Yuan spirit fought against the lightning beasts, he found that it was growing smaller and more condensed. Its power was also increasing. However, he was still cautious. He didn't unleash any special techniques that wasted energy. He just smashed the lightning beasts with brute strength. Unlike last time, he didn't dare to strike the tribulation clouds. He just continued according to the pace of the tribulation. That would save him the most energy. After having gone through heavenly tribulation so many times, he had already figured out some of their rules. The main one was that despite how badly the tribulation wanted to kill him, its power was still limited. Furthermore, it had to go through a certain step-by-step procedure. The lightning was growing stronger, but its power was still well within the limits of Long Chen's power. As long as he exhausted all of its energy, the tribulation would end. In the past, Long Chen had been too fiery and had constantly provoked the tribulation, quickening its pace. That was very dangerous. It left him without time to breathe or recover. This time, he was obediently following the tribulation's tempo. It grew stronger bit by bit, and as Long Chen handled it, he also recovered all his energy, keeping himself in his peak condition. Since he wasn't provoking the tribulation, it was much gentler. After 4 hours, the lightning beasts faded, and human lightning figures appeared. Each of them held weapons as they attacked Long Chen. There was practically an endless tide of them, and they instantly enveloped Long Chen. The fists of Long Chen's Yuan spirit danced. What delighted Long Chen was that his Yuan spirit was now extremely solid. The attacks of the human-shaped lightning couldn't even injure it, although it would cause his physical body and soul to feel pain. After all, his Yuan spirit and his soul were intricately linked. However, most of his focus was now on his Yuan spirit. With Lei Long protecting his main body, he didn't need to worry about it. The human-shaped lightning was extremely powerful, but his Yuan spirit grew stronger and stronger as it fought them. It was now 15 meters tall, and each of its punches could blow them up. The human-shaped lightning also grew stronger and more berserk. Clearly, the lightning tribulation was also reaching a berserk state. The most difficult part was coming. Long Chen continued to fight stably. He did his best to maintain an equilibrium between the amount of energy he used and the amount of energy he recovered. The lightning incarnations grew more numerous and distinct. Their faces and robes became clearer. There were men and women, young and old. Their robes were strange and ancient. Their power caused the world to shake with each wave of their hands. Long Chen knew that these were the ancient heroic spirits, peerless experts who had also gone against the heavens and been exterminated under the lightning tribulation. Their techniques had all been imprinted on the heavens. Finally, Long Chen could no longer just fight with brute power. These ancient heroic spirits possessed both power and combat experience. They were no longer just charging at him. They were true experts. Although their moves were still stiff and inflexible, they were incredibly refined. Their magical arts were extremely powerful, and there were many of them. Whirlwind Slash. A lightning blade appeared in the hands of Long Chen's Yuan spirit. He spun and a shockwave came from his lightning blade, slaughtering the ancient heroic spirits. He was no longer able to fight without any battle skills or magical arts. When their attacks landed on his Yuan spirit, they wouldn't cause any injuries, but they would cause a sharp pain in his true body-soul. As he cut down the ancient heroic spirits, their numbers began to dwindle. "Watch out! The divine lightning is brewing," said Evil Moon. Suddenly, the remaining ancient heroic spirits vanished. Following that, this space shuddered violently. It felt like the weight of the world was on Long Chen's shoulders. The heavenly might focused on Long Chen. It was like a giant executioner was looking at its next target. In front of that heavenly might, anyone would feel minuscule. They would feel like there was no point in resisting. In front of the heavenly might, man could only submit. "Idiot, do you think I would submit to you?" Long Chen sneered and stood straight. Raising his head, he looked into the endless darkness. There was a small ball of light brewing within the center of it. A white rune was currently growing. That rune suddenly shook, and a ray of white light shot at Long Chen. Long Chen felt space lock around him. Time was severed. There was no time to react at all before the white light struck his Yuan spirit. Boom! His Yuan spirit shuddered violently. It almost crumbled from this one attack. Ah! Long Chen clutched his head and screamed. He felt like a million needles were stabbing his head, aggravating every inch of his nerves. That pain was irresistible. You have to hold on. This kind of divine lightning will only strike 3 times. As long as you can last that long, it'll end. Evelmoon's voice also contained some urgency now. It had also gone through divine tribulation, so it understood its rules. The white rune suddenly grew 10 times larger. Like a strange star, it hung in the dark sky. Then another ray of white light struck at Long Chen. Once again, there was no chance at all for Long Chen's Yuan spirit to resist or dodge. Long Chen coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his Yuan spirit shrank until it was less than 5 feet tall. It was even smaller than his true body. The white rune grew larger once more. The world rumbled as a destructive air condensed. The scent of death was everywhere. Just as the light was about to shoot out once more, Long Chen suddenly raised his lightning blade and slashed it, unleashing his spiritual strength. The Tribulation's attacks came too suddenly for him to wait for it. He had to attack first. If he still didn't do anything to block the third attack, he'd definitely die. The lightning blade struck the white rune. The lightning blade exploded, and blinding lightning filled the darkness. A success dash. Evil Moon was delighted. It was surprised that Long Chen could grasp the timing of the divine lightning and strike it at the perfect time. Before it could finish celebrating, the rune in the sky grew larger and brighter once more. The divine pressure increased. This world seemed to have become hell as a destructive will filled every inch of the land. How is this possible? Cried Evil Moon. That rune grew larger and brighter until it was blinding within the darkness. It was like a giant star was expanding until it was about to explode. Its fierce light was like sharp blades piercing this space, and the divine pressure present would make any person feel despair. Within this world of darkness, there was nothing except for that apocalyptic light. The only thing here was death and destruction. It really didn't give you a chance of survival at all, muttered Evil Moon. Long Chen was panting for breath as he held his head. The fierce pain in it made him unable to think straight at the moment. Only after a few breaths' time did he feel like he could think again. Waving his hand, he pulled his Yuan spirit into his mindseat. In that final attack, he had used his spiritual strength to unleash the fifth form of Split the Heavens. In truth, the timing of his attack had been very lucky. If it had been too fast, it wouldn't have blocked the divine lightning's attack. If it had been too slow, he would have been struck first. Either way, he would have been doomed. Although he had managed to destroy the majority of the divine lightning's power with that attack, his Yuan spirit had still taken a large blow. It had rapidly shrunk on contact with the divine lightning, becoming only a foot tall. It was even more condensed and powerful now, but Long Chen had used up far too much spiritual strength with that attack. He couldn't unleash it a second time. The main thing was that he wasn't able to perfectly control his Yuan spirit at this point. At least 80% of his energy had been wasted during that attack. After all, a Yuan spirit was not the true body or a clone. As it was an entirely separate entity, passing energy back and forth resulted in a portion of it being wasted. Long Chen felt regret for all the spiritual strength that had been wasted. As he put away his Yuan spirit, Lei Long roared. Just now, when Long Chen had attacked the divine lightning, it had carefully captured a few of the divine lightning's runes. However, those divine runes were too tough, and no matter how it tried, it couldn't subdue them. It was like a mortal had swallowed chunks of iron. There was no way for it to digest them. Lei Long, give up. You can't digest that, so don't waste the effort. Lend your power to me, said Long Chen as he looked at the giant rune hanging in the air. Only then did Lei Long unwillingly spit out the divine lightning runes it had swallowed and fly back to Long Chen's arm. Those divine runes slowly faded back into heaven and earth, vanishing without a trace. Divine lightning was different from Tribulation lightning. It contained a divine element to it. After receiving 3 of its attacks, Long Chen had some understanding of it. It was because of that understanding that he was feeling uneasy. The divine light in the sky suddenly came to a stop. The huge rune hung in the sky like a sun. Cracks began to appear on the rune, and Long Chen's nerves tensed. He summoned a powerful lightning blade to his hands and poured Lei Long's energy into it. Whether he lived or died would depend on this. The cracks on the rune spread. It was like a seal was breaking, and the energy from the other side was coming out. He had no idea what kind of existence was trying to break out of its seal. Boom! The giant rune exploded. A white light streaked toward Long Chen. It's here! Long Chen's heart shook. The attack he had been brewing this whole time was launched, and the lightning blade sliced through space. This attack he had been brewing this entire time slashed heavily onto the white light. An explosive sound rang out, and a blinding light made it so Long Chen couldn't see what happened. Boom! His lightning blade exploded, and he was sent flying back. His blood and flesh splattered all over the place. Long Chen was shocked. In that single exchange, his physical body had been stripped of a whole layer of skin and flesh. Blood covered his entire body now. The power of divine lightning is probably something only my Yuan spirit can resist. No matter how strong a physical body is, as long as it is mortal, it can't resist it. Long Chen's heart sank. The thing that had made him uneasy had finally occurred. This divine lightning possessed a strange kind of energy that only his Yuan spirit was barely capable of resisting. However, right now, his spiritual strength was exhausted. If he let his Yuan spirit block it again, it would be destroyed and he would die with it. He could only use his physical body to block it. But this power couldn't be blocked by physical power. There was no way to resolve this situation. Having no other choice, he waved his hand, and another lightning blade appeared. The only reason his body hadn't been completely destroyed was because of Lei Long. Since Lei Long also came from Tribulation lightning, although it was different from divine lightning, it was able to isolate a portion of its power. Lightning filled the sky, and Long Chen finally saw what had attacked him. It was an 8-winged divine lightning beast with a long tail. It looked like a divine phoenix. It was completely white, and its eyes were cold as it stared at Long Chen. Lightning runes were flashing in its eyes. It was holy and sacred like a perfect divine bird. But Long Chen only sensed death from it. Its eyes contained a merciless will of destruction. It existed to destroy. It spread its wings, and rain of white feathers shot at Long Chen. At the same time, it fell from the sky, its claws reaching toward him. Those claws looked powerful enough to tear heaven and earth apart. Wielding a lightning sphere in his left hand and a lightning blade in his right, he tossed the sphere into the air while he slashed the blade out. His blade met the phoenix's claw. Once more, his skin and flesh that had just recovered were blown away. This time, both of his arms broke. The phoenix's power was even greater than the beginning. In front of this divine lightning, Long Chen didn't have any ability to fight back. He had plenty of power and energy left, but none of it was useful against it. He was like a Herculean who didn't know how to swim and was tossed into a sea to drown. Its divine nature was too terrifying. This kind of energy wasn't something mere mortals could comprehend. It was something on the same level of existence as gods. Its attacks had clearly been as light as a feather, but they contained power that could destroy the very world. Evil Moon, what do I have to do to subdue this damn bird? After being repeatedly injured, Long Chen was relying entirely on the primal chaos space's healing to get by. But this was not a solution. Sooner or later, the primal chaos space would run out of life energy, and he would be dead. I don't have any solutions. This heavenly tribulation won't stop until it uses up all its energy. Do you not see the black holes in the places it destroyed? Those are the eyes of the heavens. If I came out to help you, I would immediately be seen. At that time, your tribulation would become my tribulation. In my current condition, there's no way I could pass, and you would be destroyed in an instant. There's nothing I can do, said Evil Moon helplessly. Even Evil Moon had no tricks. As for the heaven-flipping seal, although it wanted to help him, it was completely held back by Evil Moon. If it tried to help, it would only make Long Chen die faster. Long Chen continued to fight. Split the heavens. Starfall. The Nirvana scripture. Raging flame prison. Double dragon destruction. All his moves were used, but they were unable to do anything to this divine phoenix. His attacks seemed to have their power stripped away when they landed on the divine phoenix. Long Chen sensed that probably less than 1/10,000th of their power was actually striking the phoenix. This was divine power, a level that made man despair. Long Chen's attacks were completely ineffective. Yet, the phoenix's attacks were effective. Each of its strikes blew away Long Chen's flesh, making him lose a huge amount of essence blood. Although the primal chaos space could heal him, it couldn't replenish his essence blood that quickly. Long Chen felt like he was going to go insane. Long Chen tried to use his Yuan spirit to launch a sneak attack. Unfortunately, as soon as his Yuan spirit appeared, the divine phoenix turned its attention to it. A ray of light shot out of its eyes, striking his Yuan spirit before he could pull it back. His Yuan spirit almost crumbled, and he clutched his head in pain. He was almost torn in two by the phoenix's claws. After that, he no longer dared to use his Yuan spirit. After all, his control of his Yuan spirit wasn't perfect yet. If he failed again, he might really die. Long Chen was still struggling bitterly, stalling for time. He had no way to handle this divine phoenix as it had no weak points. Even Evil Moon had said that the only option was to exhaust all its energy. However, Long Chen quickly realized just how childish this thinking was. This divine phoenix's power seemed to be limitless. Even if he had 10 times the spiritual Yuan, he wouldn't be able to exhaust it. Fuck, I'll risk it. This is the only chance. Long Chen sensed his remaining spiritual Yuan and spiritual strength. A completely brazen and crazy thought appeared in his mind. Long Chen's Yuan spirit flew out once more. It instantly transformed to become 30,000 meters tall, and it devoured the divine phoenix in one gulp. You're crazy! Evil Moon let out a shocked cry. Long Chen had actually used his Yuan spirit to swallow this divine lightning phoenix beast. All the phoenix had to do was explode, and his Yuan spirit would be annihilated. This was no different than courting death. Long Chen's Yuan spirit had just swallowed the phoenix when it shrank back down and transformed into a ray of light that was devoured by Long Chen's true body. It happened so quickly that the phoenix couldn't even react before being swallowed into Long Chen's stomach. An explosive sound came from it. Although Long Chen had his Yuan spirit spit out the phoenix fast enough, it still received a heavy impact and almost crumbled. It instinctively returned to his mind sea. The intense pain in his mind almost made him faint. So he's trying to use this move. Evil Moon was completely shocked. The phoenix was now in Long Chen's stomach. Since his stomach had been changed by the Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth divine ability, there was now a special space inside that could store a huge mountain. There was plenty of space for the phoenix. Long Chen was in such pain that he was clutching his head and couldn't focus, but Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth automatically activated. 108,000 runes began to shine, and divine light flowed out of them, binding the phoenix. However, the phoenix's wings flapped violently, destroying the divine light. In comparison to the phoenix's power, the power of Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth was like a spiderweb. It was unable to bind this powerful existence. The phoenix let out a furious roar, and its lightning runes lit up. An aura of annihilation was released. Not good. Evil Moon let out a startled cry. The phoenix was about to explode. It wasn't even going to give Long Chen a chance to spit it out. Just at this moment, the 108,000 runes lit up again, and streaks of divine light intertwined in the air, forming a net that bound the phoenix. Its power was 10 times greater than before, preventing the explosion. Evil Moon was startled, and it saw that Long Chen had recovered from the pain and was forming hand seals. The power of his 108,000 stars was pouring into the runes, binding the phoenix. So he still had this move left. The divine light bound the phoenix tightly, but it continued to struggle. Long Chen's body was constantly cracking, looking like it might crumble at any moment. The two of them were even as they tried to defeat the other. Long Chen, don't fight like this. Start extracting a portion of its energy and release it back into the outside world. Once its divine energy is stripped from its main body, it will immediately vanish. It will quickly weaken, reminded Evil Moon. However, Long Chen acted like he didn't hear Evil Moon. He continued to suppress the phoenix with all his power. What the fuck? Don't tell me you're really planning on devouring it? With Evil Moon's understanding of Long Chen, it seemed he really would do something as crazy as this. Long Chen coughed up a mouthful of blood, and the space between his eyebrows split open. His physical body had been pushed to its limit. This phoenix was too terrifying. "I refuse to believe I can't suppress you," roared Longchen. Light exploded from his body, in particular his hands, feet, and head. His Feng Fu, Alioth, Life Fate, Enlightenment Palace, and Divine Gate stars were unleashing all their power. His 108,000 stars, his Qi seas, all his energy was gathered. The divine runes brightened once more, unleashing a blinding light that wrapped around the phoenix like a giant cocoon. The huge cocoon shook violently as the phoenix continued to struggle, but its struggling slowly weakened until it became still. "You succeeded." Evil Moon couldn't believe that Longchen had really sealed the divine lightning. Divine lightning possessed a divine nature, but Longchen had actually used mortal energy to subdue it. That was simply against the law of the heavens. However, he had done it. "Come out and fight me again. I dare you to burn yourself again." Longchen raised his head and roared at the sky. His whole body was covered in blood, and he seemed insane. After shouting just a bit, he collapsed on the ground. He had gone far past his limit. When he woke up, pain racked his body, and he felt like millions of hedgehogs were running around inside his head. "I, Evil Moon, have never admired anyone. But when it comes to craziness, Longchen, you are the first existence I admire," said Evil Moon. Longchen bitterly smiled and shook his head. "It's not that I want to be crazy, but that I have no choice. You don't know just how tough my path was. Based on my experience, I can't give up any chance to increase my trump cards. Each trump card will affect whether or not I can survive next time. This time, I have to thank you. Without your swallow the heavens, devour the earth divine ability, I would have definitely died." Longchen was really grateful to Evil Moon. This time, his tribulation had been one of sure death. There should have been no way for him to survive. The heavens had been set on ending him here. There was no way his Yuan spirit would have been able to defeat the divine lightning phoenix at the end. With his tribulation targeting his Yuan spirit, he couldn't win with it. "There's no need to thank me. The divine abilities of the evil dragon race might be powerful, but they aren't so powerful as to be able to devour divine lightning. This is because of your 9-star hegemon body art. I never expected my evil dragon race's divine ability to undergo such a mutation. It seems the origins of your 9-star hegemon body art aren't simple," said Evil Moon. Normally, the only reason why a technique would ever change was because the user cultivated another technique that was much, much greater than the former. It was like a drop of fresh water landing in the sea. It would instantly transform because the difference in power was incredibly great. Well, no matter how you put it, without your divine ability, I'd have definitely died. Whatever, I'll just remember this favor." Longchen didn't waste any words. When it came to some things, remembering them in your heart was enough. Saying them with your mouth would make them meaningless. Longchen slowly sat up. He felt like his whole skeleton was about to crumble. The intense pain was like needles stabbing every inch of him. Why is it so painful? And the injuries still haven't healed. Longchen looked at his bloody body. There were many places where his bones were exposed. It seemed his body's natural regeneration had lost its effect. Painful? You should be thankful. Your injuries have the leftover energy of the divine lightning on them. Your body is strengthening once more. However, your injuries will need some time to fully recover. The destructive will of divine lightning isn't so easy to erase. But in any case, you managed to profit from your tribulation. Of course, the only reason you managed to profit is because you're still alive, said Evil Moon. This tribulation had been too dangerous. On the other hand, Longchen was already used to it. He had brushed against the line between life and death countless times, and his will was incomparably strong. That made it so every time he brushed against death, he would be able to maintain a calm heart. The more people panicked in the face of death, the more they would make mistakes and die. Despite the pain racking his body, he did his best to focus. He began circulating the 9-star hegemon body art. His 108,000 stars activated, and the life energy of the primal chaos space slowly circulated. While resisting the divine phoenix, Longchen had extracted all the primal chaos space's life energy midway. Now he needed to hurry and recover. As the 9-star Hegemon body art circulated, his injuries slowly healed. Although the speed wasn't as fast as before, at the very least, it was reducing the pain. In order to seal the Divine Phoenix, his 5 stars had lost a great deal of energy. It could be said that his core energy had been gravely harmed this time. But when he looked at the cocoon with the Divine Phoenix inside, he felt that it had all been worth it. Lei Long had already summoned 8 split bodies that were coiled around it. Right now, it was unable to absorb its energy. There was a fundamental difference between their energies. However, Lei Long was clever and didn't absorb it right now. It had its 8 split bodies sense the divine lightning's power, letting it transform the 8 split bodies. It was like it had placed 8 eggs in another creature's nest. Once the incubation was complete, it would draw them back, and the 8 of them would be infected by the aura of divine lightning. Then it would be able to slowly transform its own energy into the same divine lightning energy. Of course, this was an extremely slow process. It wasn't as fast as devouring it directly. However, there was no other option. A day later, Long Chen had stopped the bleeding, and he wrapped his injuries. The power of the divine lightning inhibited his regeneration ability. He could only handle it like this. Compared to his external injuries, his internal injuries were worse off. His Yuan spirit had almost crumbled in that last attack and was recovering with the help of his spiritual strength. However, his spiritual strength had also been damaged during the fight. With that being said, the injuries of the soul were the slowest to heal. Fortunately, he still had a few top-grade giant pills from Pill Valley that could nourish the soul. He had recovered to the point that his spiritual injuries wouldn't gravely affect his combat power. Tidying himself up, Long Chen took out a blood-colored jade plate. There was a single rune on it that looked like a drop of fresh blood. It's time to harvest the seed I planted back then. I should still have enough time. Looking at the jade plate, Long Chen smiled. Space shook. Long Chen's figure appeared in a gloomy world. He looked around to appraise this world, smiling. So the corrupt path hides itself within minor worlds. Those strongholds in the outside world are just to deceive others. If it weren't for Meng Qi's blood-tracing soul jade, I really wouldn't have been able to find them, muttered Long Chen to himself as he looked at the jade plate in his hand. This blood-tracing soul jade was something Meng Qi had made for him. The blood it was tracing was not Meng Qi's but Gui Yan's. Back in the spirit world, Gui Yan had used the lives of the spirit warriors against Long Chen, and Long Chen had acted like he was caught off guard and unable to stop himself in time, resulting in his sword piercing Gui Yan's head. Without Gui Yan being aware of it, Long Chen had extracted a drop of the latter's purest essence blood. He had then given this essence blood to Meng Qi, who then created the blood-tracing soul jade. This jade was extremely magical and could sense its target's position from a great distance. Previously, Long Chen had used this jade to find Gui Yan's sneak attack and sent the spirit warriors to lay down a trap, annihilating the sneak attackers and leaving only Gui Yan alive. In truth, Long Chen hadn't had many plans for him at that time. He had simply felt having such a card up his sleeves might be useful in the future. Now, he had tracked Gui Yan to a place. However, he had ended up roaming around for a long time without being able to find him. In the end, he had asked Evil Moon what was going on. Only then had he learned that the blood-tracing soul jade had accurately tracked him. It was just that Gui Yan was not in this world but a minor world on a parallel plane to this place. Normally, if one wished to enter a minor world, it required knowing where the entrance to the minor world was. Long Chen didn't have that patience, so he had Evil Moon directly cut through space and enter the minor world. He had heard that life star experts condensed their own astral spaces. As their cultivation bases grew, their astral space grew as well. Once it reached a certain realm, it could be used to create a minor world. Such a minor world could only remain hidden within the 1,000 major worlds. It was unable to merge with the cosmos. Otherwise, it would crumble from the pressure of the major worlds. To put it in a simpler way, the so-called minor worlds were like life rings attached to major worlds. What was different from life rings was that minor worlds were connected to the major world, and the major world's laws would pervade the minor world. That was what allowed humans to live and cultivate inside. Now, Long Chen had charged into one of the corrupt path's secret minor worlds. Once he was inside, he could clearly sense a dark and cold aura present in the air. There was no sun, no moon, and no stars. The sky was dusky. It was unclear whether it was day or night. The place he was currently in was an unremarkable mountain village with just a few dozen families. He saw a few children playing around and people working on the farms. It was a peaceful scene that wasn't much different from the outside world. The only difference was that at the center of the village was a stone statue. The statue was pitch black and emitting an evil aura. These villagers all had to put down their farming tools and kowtow toward the statue whenever they passed it. He heard them pray to it devoutly. As Long Chen sped through the minor world, he saw more and more villages, and they were the same as the one he had seen before. They looked peaceful and worshipped the same statue. It wasn't as dark and bloody as he had imagined. Long Chen followed the direction of the blood-tracing soul jade. Two huge mountains quickly appeared ahead, forming a natural gate. There was also a man-made gate at the bottom, with tens of thousands of people gathered there. It seemed that there was some kind of gathering. Long Chen hesitated. He decided to stealthily enter the crowd, flowing forward with them. When he reached the gate, he realized that a sect was accepting disciples. There were over 10 soul transformation corrupt experts staring coldly at the people before them. The majority of these people were young Xiantian realm disciples. All of them had expressions of despair, and some were even quivering. Suddenly, one of the disciples escaped from the crowd and flew away. One of the soul transformation experts snorted, and a withered claw flew out, catching that disciple and dragging him back. Those who are disloyal to the corrupt god will get 100 years of having their soul refined as a punishment. The soul transformation expert crushed that person's body and extracted his soul from his head. Each person had a soul, but the strength of the soul varied by person. The corrupt expert took out a lantern and tossed that person's soul inside. A sound like a water drop landing on smoldering iron rang out. Following that sound, a terrified and pained spiritual fluctuation spread. Everyone felt the pain within that spiritual fluctuation and turned pale. Remember, everything you have was bestowed to you by the corrupt god, including your souls and bodies. When the corrupt god needs you, you need to offer yourselves without hesitation. Furthermore, with the corrupt god's blessing, you won't die. The death that you see is just a false appearance. Your physical bodies will die, but your souls will return to the embrace of the corrupt god. You will enter reincarnation and reappear in this world. You will never die. But those disloyal to the corrupt god will endure the pain of having their soul refined for 100 years. Once the 100 years are over, their soul will dissipate and vanish forever. That is true death. The corrupt expert's gaze was as sharp as a blade as it swept across these disciples. Long Chen sneered. This was a purely evil ideology. Even if their lives were bestowed to them by the corrupt god, could a person's life be taken just like that? Could a parent just randomly kill their children? All things were born of heaven and earth. To be born, to grow old, to get sick, to die, this was all natural. But it was completely unnatural to strip away other people's lives without restraint. Long Chen quickly reached the gate as he followed the crowd. There was an image of the corrupt god painted onto the gate. The painting was very lifelike. He saw a man standing in the sky, his hands wielding two blades. He had two horns, and his eyes emitted a blood-red light. Behind him was stifling darkness. In Long Chen's eyes, he didn't look like a god but a devil. Each disciple would cross their arms before the statue and mutter something. It was probably some kind of eulogy. Once he was closer, he finally heard a disciple say, "Great corrupt God, please accept your servant's gratitude. Thank you for bestowing us with heaven and earth, with this world. Because of your greatness." That person let out a long spiel that gave Long Chen a chill. It was like everything in this world had been created by this corrupt god. Furthermore, it seemed like anyone who didn't believe in the corrupt god were traitors. It was quickly Long Chen's turn. He crossed his arms and softly muttered, All you are is an idiot. Since you want praise, I'll help you out. The only reason you were born was because your parents were indecent, Long Chen muttered quickly, and because there were too many people muttering at the same time, the corrupt elders didn't notice what he was saying. He muddled his way in just like that. Once he was past the gate, he quickly rushed forward and spread his divine sense to see if a certain person was present. Are you courting death? If you want to die, there's no need to be in a rush. Go line up at the back. While Long Chen rushed forward, a Jade Core disciple suddenly sent a palm toward him, wanting to teach him a lesson for breaking the rules. Hee, Lin Yuan's not here. Then I can fight freely. That disciple that had attacked him suddenly exploded, resulting in startled cries. The only reason Long Chen had snuck his way inside was because of the protective formation blocking his divine sense. He was afraid this was Lin Yuan's sect, and he didn't want to encounter her here. Although Lin Yuan had said that she wouldn't be enemies with him any longer, it was a bit different now that he was the one who had charged into her home territory. That wasn't Lin Yuan being enemies with him, it was him being enemies with her. Now that he didn't find her aura, he no longer cared about being sneaky and directly killed that person. He rushed forward. Who dares? A corrupt elder had just appeared in front of Long Chen when he exploded, his Yuan's spirit killed. Long Chen pulled off his hood, revealing his true face. He sneered, "What? Do you not recognize your old friend?" Long Chen. Startled and terrified cries rang out. If you don't want to die, then scram. Long Chen slashed Evil Moon. His target was the huge statue in front of him. The huge saber image slashed right onto the statue. Divine light shone from the statue, actually knocking Long Chen away. Long Chen cursed inside. In his injured state, he couldn't use his full power. He wasn't even able to destroy the statue with one attack. That statue had only cracked in one spot. Long Chen, you dare to barge into my corrupt path? Suddenly, a Life Star expert wielding a blood-colored saber attacked Long Chen. His weapon's runes lit up and an evil aura exploded. It was actually a divine item. Boom. Long Chen hastily used Evil Moon to block. An explosive sound rang out as Long Chen was once more sent flying, his arms stinging. Are you a pig? With your current injured state, you can't even bring out 1/10 of the power of your physical body. What are you doing competing in brute strength? You're a soul transformation expert now. Evelmun's cursing rang out in Long Chen's head. Oh, that's right. Long Chen suddenly felt foolish. He had already gotten used to directly slashing people with his saber and had forgotten that he was a soul transformation expert. Long Chen's forehead began to shine, and a 3-inch tall version of him appeared there. It was his Yuan spirit. That miniature version of himself rapidly formed hand seals. Suddenly, flames exploded out of him. Raging flames devour the heavens. The golden flames covered heaven and earth, incinerating the corrupt experts. Only a few Life Star experts managed to survive. Hurry and run. It's the heaven incinerating flame, shouted the expert with the divine item. He attacked Long Chen with it once more. Long Chen slashed his saber again, meeting his opponent's blood-colored saber. He was forced back once more. This time, he retreated on his own initiative rather than competing in power. As for Evil Moon, it looked down on this blood-colored saber. Its divine essence was so minuscule that it felt it wasn't even worth doing anything about it. Due to his injuries, Long Chen was unable to release his full power. He avoided taking head-on exchanges again, and using the power of his opponent's saber, he retreated in the direction that he wanted. As he flew through the air, he sent another slash at the corrupt god statue. The head of the statue became covered in cracks. After receiving 2 of Long Chen's attacks, it was no longer able to bear it. This statue did not have a protective formation around it, as it was the symbol of the corrupt path's faith. Who would possibly dare to attack it? The only thing defending it was a layer of divine light, which was simply a manifestation of the karmic luck it maintained. Its actual defensive power wasn't very high. You bastard Long Chen, you dare dash? You're right, I really do dare. Boom. Wielding his saber with both hands, Long Chen slashed it down right on the statue's head. The head finally exploded. In that instant, the divine light around the statue dimmed greatly, as if it had instantly become an ordinary mud statue. As if it had lost its life, it crumbled. No! The Life Star expert with the divine item roared furiously. Thousands of corrupt experts who weren't within Long Chen's flames charged at him now. They were all devout believers. However, those people's cultivation bases were too low. Before they could even approach Long Chen, they were turned to ash by the heaven-incinerating flame. Yet, despite that, those corrupt experts continued to charge at Long Chen. Attacks flew through the air. The ferocity and ruthlessness of the corrupt path were revealed at this time. Long Chen blocked the blood-colored divine saber once more but found that the elder had somehow activated a portion of his divine item's power. Its great power sent Long Chen tumbling back, and he almost coughed up blood. He ended up flying outside the area of raging flames devour the heavens. This time, he had set it up as a set area attack, not a domain that followed him. As a result, all the corrupt experts took advantage of this and charged at him. Long Chen still had a calm smile on his face. He rested Evil Moon on his shoulder and raised his right hand. A huge sphere came to life, instantly growing to 3,000 meters. Starfall. The huge sphere exploded amongst the corrupt experts, completely annihilating this corrupt sect. Countless corrupt experts were killed by this attack, and the land was completely destroyed. The only one remaining was the Life Star expert with a divine item. The soul transformation realm really is great. Long Chen smiled. With the help of a Yuan spirit forming hand seals for him, he was able to unleash a huge move like Starfall in an instant. This feeling really was refreshing. The first thing someone had to do while forming hand seals was gather their chi, essence, and soul together so that they could control their energy, passing it through their set meridians to unleash a powerful technique. On the other hand, the Yuan spirit itself was formed of a combination of the chi, essence, and soul. It could directly control that energy. This was the strongest point of the soul transformation realm. Of course, only Empyreans with extremely powerful Yuan spirits could do such a thing. This was yet another major barrier between rank 9 Celestials and Empyreans. Long Chen, you blasphemed the god. You won't have a good death. The Life Star expert roared. His face was twisted with rage. He was the leader of this sect, but now his sect and the statue of the corrupt god had been destroyed. His heart was dripping blood. He suddenly spat a mouthful of blood onto his divine item. It began to rumble, and a sea of blood appeared in the sky. Within that sea of blood was a huge saber that slashed mercilessly at Long Chen, sealing all his paths of retreat. Split the heavens 5. Long Chen summoned his own huge saber image. It was a black saber image with the will to cut apart heaven and earth. Long Chen had been prepared the instant the Life Star expert had spat out blood. The black saber image struck the blood-colored saber image. As a result, Long Chen coughed up a mouthful of blood and flew back. The Life Star expert had it even worse than him. He flew even farther, coughing up 3 mouthfuls of blood. Not bad. I can block a divine item with my own power. That attack would have killed him if I wasn't injured. Long Chen smiled confidently. Let it go. That divine item in his hand is absolute garbage. Almost all its divine essence has already faded. Do you not see that I'm too lazy to even absorb it? Evil Moon didn't hesitate to mercilessly give a blow to his new confidence. At the very least, my body can now resist some divine power. It's not so difficult to bear as before, said Long Chen. After reaching the soul transformation realm, he had truly gotten much stronger. Isn't that obvious? You are someone who went through divine tribulation. You now have a certain resistance to divine energy, said Evil Moon. Thunder force circulated below Long Chen's feet, and he appeared where the statue had been. After he slashed the ground, the divine pool surfaced, almost overflowing with the pure and dense heaven and earth divine spring. Since you're so generous, I'll happily accept it. Long Chen waved his hand, collecting it all. The Life Star expert came pouncing at him like a madman. "I won't play any longer with you. Let us meet again." Lightning wings appeared on Long Chen's back, and he vanished from that person's sight. The Life Star expert couldn't even tell which direction Long Chen had gone because he was so fast. Looking at the scene of desolation around him, he let out a heaven-shaking roar. "Long Chen, you won't have a good death." Long Chen heard the roar, but he didn't bother with it. His heart was practically blooming with flowers. The corrupt sects worshipped the corrupt god. Hence, that sect's heaven and earth divine spring had been extremely dense, almost on the same level as the pill towers. It was much better quality-wise than the other sects he had plundered. "That little fellow Yuan is interesting. As soon as he saw me, he slipped away without even fighting. Originally, I was even wondering what kind of excuse I would have to make to let him get away. Hee, that child is really smart." Long Chen laughed. Things were progressing very smoothly. Taking out the blood-tracing soul jade, Long Chen quickly confirmed Yuan's direction. He had to be fleeing to another corrupt sect. As he rushed after, he encountered several waves of blockers, and they were all slain by him. Most likely, they had come rushing over upon receiving a distress signal, but Long Chen was too fast. They were still rushing over when things had already ended. This was already something Long Chen had anticipated from the start. When he had attacked, he had sent one of Lei Long's split bodies to destroy the sect's transportation formations. 6 hours later, Long Chen finally found Yuan's destination. It was another corrupt sect. He had only just entered when the sect's grand protective formation was activated. Without saying a word, Long Chen used Split the Heavens to break the formation. The first thing he did was find Yuan and kick him half dead before feigning that he was entangled with other experts, allowing Yuan to get away again. Once Yuan fled, Long Chen destroyed their statue and took their divine spring. Then with Starfall he destroyed the sect. The sect's experts couldn't hold him back at all. After getting what he wanted, he immediately left. Long Chen had to admit that this child Yuan was truly capable. In just one day, he led him across 7 corrupt sections. However, when he reached the 8th sect, he encountered a terrifying existence and wasn't able to defeat them. Seeing that he had about enough of the heaven and earth divine spring, he had Evil Moon cut through space and returned to the continent. "There are still 10 days. I have 10 days to fully recover and digest this heaven and earth divine spring. Sha Guangyan, if I don't cut off your dog head, I won't be Long Chen." Long Chen's eyes shone with cold killing intent. He would never be able to forget the sight of Sha Guangyan torturing Cloud. There was no way to reason with some people. There was only one thing to do: kill. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.